We have the record matter of Jason Haig versus Thomas Haig is the defendant's motion to dissolve a temporary restraining order. Kyle T. O'Mara appears on behalf of the defendant. On behalf of the plaintiff in this case, who is present before the court, it's Attorney Adam Flory, and Mr. O'Mara, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. As you've indicated, I filed this motion to dissolve a temporary restraining order on behalf of my client, Thomas Haig, who is present before the court. Your Honor, if you'll recall, this Tuesday, I believe, fourth plaintiff through counsel filed a motion for a temporary restraining order, which was granted by this court without notice pursuant to the applicable court rule. It's my understanding, and as has been sworn to by my client in the affidavit attached to my motion, that armed with that temporary restraining order, the plaintiff entered property owned by my client in Tuscola County and planted beans on Tuesday evening. Your Honor, the problem with that is that the complaint that's been filed in this matter and the temporary restraining order signed by this court on the 4th applied to a different property located in Tuscola County owned by my client. Unfortunately, Your Honor, we can't unring this bell. The court grants my motion to dissolve the restraining order. Obviously, seed's not coming out of the ground, but my concern and the reason I filed this on short notice pursuant to the court rule is because, in effect, it seems that the plaintiff believes he can take this order and plant any property owned by my client that he wishes, whether or not it's identified in the restraining order. I'm sure, Your Honor, that counsel will claim that this was purely accidental, was a mistake. Unfortunately, because of the way this was handled in filing it as a motion for a temporary restraining order rather than a preliminary injunction, without the opportunity to have notice of their request or to have a hearing regarding this matter, my client didn't have the ability to even view the order on the evening in question. It was, I think, a copy was briefly shown to the trooper in my client's presence. So, Your Honor, based on my motion, the affidavit that has been attached, I ask that you dissolve the temporary restraining order. And in light of the circumstances as I've referenced, and it has been requested in my motion, we're asking for costs in this matter. Very well. Thank you.
Your Honor, my computer speaker is defective, so I'm wearing AirPods. I hope they're clear. If you can't hear me for any reason, please let me know. Your Honor, as the court is aware, I'm covering for Mr. Miles, who is out of the state right now. Initially, Your Honor, I would just like to note that with this property in question, we were advised by our client that the property at issue was the subject of the lawsuit. Mr. Miles chose to file the motion as a verified motion, having been reviewed and signed by our client. So to the extent there was a mistake, Your Honor, we want to be sure that we advise the court that we apologize for the mistake, and we don't want the court to be under the impression that our firm or any of the attorneys played any role in that. Again, we thoroughly discussed the matter with our client and were told repeatedly which property was being referenced, and the specific parcel number was put in the order. So Mr. Miles drafted the TRO order specifically in a very narrow manner to apply to the parcel that was identified by our client. And so again, this was an absolute innocent misunderstanding. Our client was mistaken, but I just want to make it clear to the court that for our professional reputation and for the court's edification, that again, we were told it was the property that was included in the order. Only later did we find out that our client was under a different impression than what he had originally told us. So with that being said, Your Honor, I would submit the following, Judge. Mr. Miles will be moving within the next week or so to file an amended complaint. The amended complaint will include the property that was planted under the TRO. So those properties will become part of this suit. So again, we've put the cart before the horse a bit through a mistake through our client, but it's in our view, Your Honor, just other than the impropriety of the timing, it's no harm, no foul, because these will be part of this lawsuit. The same allegations that apply to the first parcel apply to these parcels. The same oral agreement that applied to the first parcel that's part of the suit currently is applied to these other parcels, which upon the filing of the amended complaint will also be part of the suit, Your Honor. And so, Your Honor, I would respectfully submit that because it's the same circumstances, the TRO should remain in place or perhaps be converted to a preliminary injunction, because the only reason the defendants at this point would want the TRO dissolved is if they planned to interfere later with activities of our client on the field. And so presuming that they don't intend to do that, there's no harm to them for the TRO. Again, we apologize for the misunderstanding, which again was directed to us by our client, and we had him review the motion and sign it verified. So the timing of it was not ideal, and it was an innocent mistake for which we apologize. But at the end of the day, Your Honor, again, we would submit that it's no harm, no foul, because the amended complaint is forthcoming. It will include these parcels that were planted, and it will be encompassed in the lawsuit. And again, the only reason I can see why the defendants would want a TRO dissolved is because they want to interfere with the planting of these parcels, which is what the suit is about. And again, these parcels will be included in the suit once the amended complaint is filed, Your Honor. So with that, Your Honor, I'd be happy to answer any questions the court may have, but we would respectfully request that the court enter an order denying the motion and affirming the TRO, at least in time, Your Honor, for the amended complaint to be filed, and then perhaps a motion on a full preliminary injunction can be held at that time.
Thank you, Mr. Roman.
Your Honor, as you are aware, the applicable standard in the court rule is not whether it's not going to harm my client if the court keeps a TRO in place. The burden that was supposed to be established by the plaintiff in requesting the TRO was that there would be irreparable harm if the court didn't grant the order. And they failed to meet that because they weren't even talking about the property that they planted. So it's clearly deficient on its face. And Your Honor, talking about putting the cart before the horse, what recourse does my client have now? He wasn't afforded notice, wasn't afforded the opportunity to even contest, review, discuss this matter with me before plaintiff ran to the court, got an order which was deficient on its face, and planted the property. Your Honor, my client, and I believe this was included in the affidavit, he can confirm that the actual property that's the subject of the lawsuit has corn that's a foot high because it was planted a month ago. And there was no objection by my client at the time when the plaintiff wanted to plant that field. So, Your Honor, I don't think there's any basis under the court rule, under the law, for you to continue this TRO. Whether or not there's some plan in the future to amend the plaintiff's complaint. This afternoon, Your Honor, I'll be filing not only an answer to the original complaint, but a motion for change of venue, because all of this property is located in Tuscola County. And the law is clear that this is a matter involving real property. So venue is appropriate in Tuscola County, not even before this court. Thank you.
You're welcome. The motion to dissolve the TRO is granted. Clearly, the information provided in the court, I can state for the record, when the phone call was made regarding this TRO, the court didn't speak with anyone. Personally, the court staff did. And I inquired whether or not there was counsel on the other side, making sure, because these TROs are very sweeping. They're granted. The court wanted to make absolutely sure. There was no counsel at the time on the other side, but clearly it's not subject of a lawsuit in this case. Motion is granted. What are you requesting for costs, Mr. Romero?
Your Honor, I haven't prepared an accounting at this point because of the expedited nature of this proceeding, but I can submit that. I can file a separate motion for costs with that accounting if you'd like.
Why don't you submit a motion for costs?
Thank you. And I have prepared a proposed order dissolving the temporary restraining order because Mr. Flory was intending to appear by Zoom. I asked my staff to email that to him this morning. I'm not sure if he's received it and had an opportunity to review it, but could I approach?
You may.
Your Honor, just for the record, I have not received an email from Mr. O'Mara's staff, and I've not had an opportunity to review the order. But obviously, the court, under the court rules, is free to enter the order at this time, commensurate with the court's decision.
Let me read it into the record. This matter having been brought on to be heard upon the motion of defendant Thomas Haig and the parties having appeared with their counsel in the court after hearing arguments of counsel and being fully advised of the premises. It is hereby ordered that the defendant's motion to dissolve temporary restraining order is hereby granted, and the temporary restraining order issued in this cause on June 4, 2024 is hereby dissolved and of no further force and effect. It is hereby further ordered that this order does not resolve the last pending claim and the case remains open. That's the language contained within the order. Mr. Flory,
Your Honor, Your Honor, I would agree that that order meets the substance of the court's ruling this morning. And we obviously cannot approve it as to content, but we would approve it as to form.
Very well. I'll execute the order at this time, Mr. Wilbur.
Thank you.
Anything else for the record?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
That'll conclude the proceedings. Thank you. Well,
Thank you, Your Honor.
you're welcome. Court calls the matter of Danielle Thomas versus Brandon Thomas, 24 7-day set for motion hearing relative to a personal protection order. As Danielle Thomas is in the court, she's in pro se. Mr. Thomas is appearing as well in the courtroom, represented in this case by attorney Dawn Young. The court had a brief conversation with counsel just a moment ago off the record. The court's been advised that Mr. Thomas has retained the services of Ms. Young, and I inquired whether Ms. Young filed an appearance in this matter. She has not, but she will. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, Your Honor.
Is that a fair statement of our conversation?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Ms. Thomas, is that a fair statement of our conversation as well? Regarding, we didn't talk about the case. I was just talking about whether or not Ms. Young was going to represent Thomas.
I suppose I knew nothing about any of this, so I don't know.
Nor
I don't know.
Nor do you. All right. Well, a personal protection order was entered in this case on May 10, 2024. Actually, it's filed on that date. The court had granted the request, and at this time, Mr. Thomas is challenging the personal protection order. The burden of going forward in this matter, the burden of persuasion rests upon the petitioner in this matter. So that's how we will proceed. Will both parties please raise your right hands? Ms. Thomas, you have requested the personal protection order, which the court has granted. And what is your reason that you wish this personal protection order to continue?
Your Honor, honestly, he is continuing to follow me. He is continuing to watch me. He is using my animals that he will not return to me as some kind of wish to get me to speak with him. I actually have a list of multiple occasions that I have run into him, other things, on 3 separate occasions. Tuesday, May 14th, including the Friday, that following Friday, the 17th. I had a civil standby conducted with an officer where Brandon had tried to convince that officer to speak with me at that time under the reasoning that he wanted me to modify or terminate this order. The very next day after that Friday, he showed up unannounced at my house with another officer. The officer did not attempt to contact me, nothing. And that is actually the address that is listed on the PPO. And trying to get me to turn the power back on at his house after he had deleted my online account for that, changed the email address, changed the phone number so I could no longer access that utility account that was in my name. Since then, he passed by me one day when I was leaving my house for work. I have seen him sitting at the gas station that is 500 feet from my house almost every single morning since that day. He watches me go through the McDonald's drive-thru to get a drink on my way to work. I don't have air conditioning in my car right now, so it's hot. I can't go to the gas station and get gas in my car because he is there every single morning. He has continuously contacted my family and friends. I have numerous people that have told me he's come up to them in public. He's had many things to say. He's crying to random friends of mine in public, trying to convince anybody that he can to get me to stop this and to go back to his house, which is absolutely out of the question, especially as he continues to do this every chance. He is walking the lines of this PPO every single chance that he gets. Like I said, my dog, he has 2 dogs of his own. He will not return my animals to me. He's recently taken up a hobby of walking my dog at a park that is 3 blocks from my house. It's only my dog. He won't walk his own dogs, but he's coming within half a mile of my house almost every single day, knowing that I go to those areas. That park is my son's bus stop. He has not stopped at all. He's not respecting the PPO. He's not respecting my boundaries. And honestly, even after today coming here and saying these things, I'm worried that he will get even more angry. And I don't know what he will do. But I can tell you that he has continuously contacted my sister. For some reason, he trusts her. He tells her a lot of things that he probably shouldn't be telling her, including the fact that he will not stop or leave me alone until a judge or the courts force him to.
Anything else?
No, that's all.
Cross-examination. Any questions?
No, Your Honor.
Any further proofs that you wish to present at this time? Any other witness?
I don't have any witnesses with me. I didn't know how all this works. I can't afford an attorney to help me with this. I do have some photos of him at the gas station near my house. I also know that, so I've been taking different routes, and he's leaving that gas station minutes after I pass through town. Twice last Friday, he had gone to Bad Axe, clearly to work, which is fine. That gas station that he cuts the grass at is only due to be cut every 10 days. So the other day, I didn't come through the intersection at the gas station. He decided to drive to Bad Axe. This gas station in Bad Axe is right across the street from where I work. So I drive for Amazon, and I'm always out by myself. He could get me alone at any time.
Did you wish to present any proofs?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Thomas actually works for a lawn company, and he is provided with me. He owns a lawn company, Tri-County Lawn and Snow, and he's tells me that when he goes to the gas station, that's an everyday thing where he's loading up for ice and drinks and to go out for his day. And then he's got a list of the places that he cuts grass every day or 3 times a month, where she's just happens to be there at the same time, and he's not engaging with her. He's leaving as soon as possible. He's having to be there for work. He has in the proposed PPO, the claims that she's making, he has never laid hands on her. He hasn't prevented her from leaving the house. It's his understanding that Miss Slade is having or Miss Thomas is having a mental health crisis, and he's been trying to get her help, and she's resisting that at this time, and that these claims are unfounded. And at this time, Mr. Thomas would like to say something.
Can I respond to those claims?
You will in a moment, yes. You're under oath, sir. What would you like to tell the court?
First of all,
You can be seated. Oh, you're testifying.
okay. I work for GPM Investments. I had, this particular day was May 31st. I had to go, I have text messages right here from my boss, and I have emails that stated I had to be there so I could get full payment. As I was there that particular day, I had a problem with app I have to use because I have to be GPS located on site. I spoke to my boss about it. He updated the app. As I was at that location in Bad Axe, I was inside the facility talking to a tenant that both of us know, and I was asked about my wife, and I proceeded to tell her, you know, things aren't good. And as I was doing that, I looked out the window, and my wife was pulled into a parking spot and got out and threw some trash away. I was inside the gas station at this time when it happened. She then drove through the drive-through, and as that was happening, I went out to my truck and trailer, and I got my mower off, and I went out to the center island section, and I was cutting that, and I watched my wife come around close to my truck where it was parked and take pictures of it while I was on site working. I've also, like we were talking about, I do go to the gas station every morning. My wife has indicated problems that I wasn't getting up early enough, going to work early enough. It created a lot of stress because she had to deal with our children, school, home life, everything. I've recently changed that since this has all started. I understand where my wife is coming from. I understand my downfalls with her. Our communication is slim to none. And our resolution to be able to resolve problems is something that we need counseling or marriage counseling to do. I'm in therapy right now. I've been going multiple days. I've had 5 sessions since the 23rd because that was the earliest I could get in. I've been able to come home early. I've been able to get a lot of work done in the morning, come home early, do things with the kids, take the dog for a walk. I'm trying to be the man that she wants me to be and show my wife that I can change things. I don't want to hurt my wife by any means. That is the love of my life right there. I have gone to the park to walk the dog. I've lost 22 pounds since this has started. I'm trying to do everything right. I'm trying to help my wife. I've talked to her sister that she's talking about in Alabama. She's my sister-in-law, and I don't know what to do. I'm trying to understand my wife. I'm trying. I've been dealing with her mental stuff for over 2 years. I have been there for almost every single doctor's appointment. I've been there through counseling appointments. I was on all the paperwork, all the HIPAA paperwork, everything, trying to do this treatment with her and get the, she's got major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder. And she's been put on medication for this. The 1st of March, she was, end of February, we had to come back from Florida because my mom had a quadruple bypass and she wasn't doing very well. After we came back from that, she started to reduce her medications, and with our family doctor. And when this discussion took place with our family doctor, I says, I'm here for you, babe. It's going to be a roller coaster ride. She's been on different medications and changed. She knows I'm there to support. When these instances started going down, the arguments, the fighting, the erratic behaviors, I actually had to go to our family physician and ask him for help. He proceeded to talk to her and tried to get her to take her medication, and she flipped out in the room. and took off running. Dr. Rostam told me that we need to have her admitted. This was,
That's hearsay.
well,
Or
right,
can't consider that.
I begged him not to do it because I didn't want to do that to my wife. I know how she feels about this stuff. At the time of the incident, this last incident was started over my 12-year-old getting a cell phone back. And she lost it in our vehicle as I was driving down the road. And I was so confused on what to do. It ended up in an altercation between her and my 15-year-old daughter fighting in the truck as I'm driving down the road. And I didn't know what to do. I'm scared, want help for my wife. So I went to HBH to try to get her help. I broke down in your hallway right out here because I did not want to turn that paperwork in for my wife. It's the last thing I've ever wanted to do to her. But I didn't know what else to do. I'm confused. And I've listened to our doctor. I've been with all these psychologists and everything that we've been through. I'm lost. This is my wife.
So you filed something with the probate court?
Yes.
What happened with that?
They came and got her and took her to Shore Hospital and released her 20 minutes later. There was no, I don't understand why that happened. I know that there's meds that she still should actually be on, but she refuses to take them. I've spoke to other people like she's talking about. She worked at Crutch's Barbecue and Sea Wing. I've talked to Steve and I've talked to Lacey both. Steve is the owner, and he has explained
We can't go into what was said.
Okay. A lot of the stuff that's in this personal protection order happened years ago, and it's out of context. She has stated in there that I have locked her in a room. She pulled a knife on me in our in the kitchen, walked through the dining room. We had an argument. She pulled a knife. I walked up behind her. I took it from her, tossed it. We both fell on the floor. She bit the tip of my thumb. I had 7 stitches put in my thumb. As that happened, we got up. I put her in the room and closed the door while I could clean up, and the kids were all out. I then heard a bang, and it was her kicking the air conditioner out of the window. She was trying to climb out the window, and this is where she's talking about escaping. That window is 16 to 18 feet off the ground over top of a wood pile. I don't want to see my wife hurt. So I wrapped my arms around her torso and put her back on the bed and said, just relax, stay in here and relax. That is it. I have stood last summer in the backyard and I was punched 16 times by her in my right eye to the point it was black and blue. When she was done, I asked her if she felt better. Because who's going to stand there and take that? I've taken a lot of stuff from my wife, and I don't want any charges, anything like that on her. There was a kitchen knife that was thrown across the dining room and went into a computer monitor. I begged the police not to put out any type of, charges, because I didn't want my wife to go through that. I know it's not her. She has a problem with maintaining her stress. And I know I do as a husband, I do add a lot to that stress, and I am trying to change that through therapy, understanding a lot of the stuff that's in the past with me. I'm trying to understand my wife. There's a lot of things that she would yell, scream, or nag at me about, and those were more cries for help, but I wasn't perceiving it as that. I was taking it as just as it was. She's yelling and nagging at me. I am trying my best to reconcile what we have. We have a 5-year marriage. I've been raising her son, my stepson, since he was 2. She's been a very good mother. She's taken my girls in. They look up to her. My 15-year-old is really hurt by the situation. She is very apologetic about it. She's not, I don't know how to explain it, Your Honor. This following her around and whatnot is, I own a business. I have to travel from Bad Axe to North Branch, Birch Run. I'm all over the place. I have multiple things to do. That's my livelihood. Our paths are gonna cross. This park is the only park in Sebring. I take my dog to it, our dog that we raised together, just to go on walks, to clear my mind, to try to fix myself and have some me time. My wife and I have been stuck at hip for 5 years. We've done everything together. It doesn't matter what it is. We've had many vacations, we've had many arguments. We've had all kinds of stuff in 5 years. But at the end of the day, I don't want to see nothing happen to her. I don't want her hurt. I want to be able to comfort her, love her, show her that I've changed a lot of the things that she had a problem with. Those things being, not helping as a father. I was in a downward depressional spiral this last winter, especially. She would have dinner done and I would come home and grab my plate and go hide. That's not what a father does. And it started to upset her and I wasn't paying attention to that. And it just snowballed until we got to this situation where she filed the summons for the divorce, and then all of a sudden the PPO order. I'm not trying to make my wife feel uncomfortable by any means, and I haven't been able to tell her this in the last 3 weeks. I want, and I encourage her, and I have paperwork here from my therapist to have her come and what it's called
Coordination of care.
Coordination of care, where she can come in and sit down and see what I'm doing, what the tools are that I'm using to try to better myself. I mean, I don't know much more to really say.
I think I've heard enough.
I love my wife and I want the best for us. That's what I want. I just want to be able to speak to her. Our dog is having surgery on the 12th. I would like to go together to take her there and have that done. We have festivals coming up. I'd like to take the kids together, but I want to move slow. I want to start over, per se. I don't want to rush things. I want to rekindle where we first fell in love and move forward. That's all I want to do. And I've explained this to her sister because I have nobody else to really talk to. I have my children, they don't kind of understand where I'm coming from, but I want the best for us and my family.
This is your request for a personal protection order, which was granted. You have the burden of persuasion. You have the right to comment. This is the final comment relative to all this. Go ahead.
Do I need to stand?
You don't need to stand.
Okay. So regarding the gas station situation, he is absolutely there to purposefully appear in front of me, which I believe he just admitted to you. He is not getting gas. He is not buying anything. He's not in the store. He is parked on the opposite side of the building that I come from, sitting in his truck every single day. He's not at the gas pump. He's not walking out of the store. He's sitting in his truck watching me. The situation with the Bad Axe gas station, the day that he came here, again, yes, I understand that he has to work. I understand that he works in Bad Axe. He has 2 lawns in Bad Axe, less than a day's worth of work in Bad Axe. He has maybe a day and a half worth of work in Sebring. He works in Caro, he works in Cass City, he works in North Branch, Kingston, Bay City, all of which are the opposite direction of Sebring. He does not have any reason to be at that gas station the majority of the days of the week. As far as him, this whole, I'm allegedly having a mental breakdown situation, this is all a game of control. He has been telling me and threatening me that he is going to have me hospitalized for so long to prevent me from standing up for myself and to prevent me from getting help. And when it didn't work out for him, he got very upset. And I would like to note that he requested that I be taken to a specific hospital that his friend's wife happens to be very high up in. As soon as I was taken there by the police, he left his home and went to that woman's house so that she could call the hospital to find out what was going on with me.
That's fine.
He will not leave me alone. It has been made very, very clear to him that I am not interested at all in reconciling, and he is refusing to believe it, to accept it. I'm really not sure. As far as him stating that he has never attempted to stop me from leaving, that is a bold-faced lie. I have witnessed to multiple occasions where this has happened. I have no problem bringing them in or getting statements from those people if you would like. Anytime that I may have gotten violent with him is in response to those situations because I am unable to get away from him. He has broken my cell phone so that I cannot call for help. He takes my car keys so that I can't leave. When I leave on foot, he gets in his vehicle and he follows me, harassing me until I either get in the car myself or he forcibly puts me in the car.
Ms. Thomas, I've really heard enough on this, and I appreciate the input from both of you. The court has to explain why or why not a PPO should either be continued or denied. I've read the response from the respondent in this case, and primarily the response is relative to wanting to reconcile, therapy, counseling, trying to turn this thing around. And that's the tenor of Mr. Thomas's statement. However, according to the testimony of the petitioner, as well as reviewing the petition of this matter, it's clear to the court that Ms. Thomas does not want to have a relationship with the respondent at this time. She wants to go her separate ways, and every time, I shouldn't say every time, but when it's near her home, gas station, etc., there he is. There is sufficient basis to continue this personal protection order. The court is going to continue it according to the previous terms ordered in this case. I also want to make reference to, I believe there was a complaint filed regarding the court and the one of the county clerks in this, deputy clerks in this matter. The deputy clerk that provided me this personal protection order request simply provided me the information. I don't get any information from anyone relative to a personal protection order or any other matter unless it's here in the courtroom. So any allegations of anyone with the clerk's office trying to prove something either way to either side is completely untrue. I read the personal protection order request on my own and made my own decision without any input from anyone. With the input I provided today, there is sufficient basis to continue the PPO and shall continue until the expiration date of November 13, 2024. No order needs to be presented. This matter is already into the lien system, and I can only caution you, Mr. Thomas, at this point, follow the terms of the PPO, and because the flip side of this is if there's a showing or law enforcement has reasonable cause to believe that you violated it, you can be arrested. So I would strongly encourage you to read over the terms of the personal protection order with your attorney, follow those terms, and we'll move forward. That is my ruling in this case. Both parties are free to go, but I'm sent this time is out first. Motion to compel, and plaintiff is present, represented by attorney Amanda Rogenbuck. They are in the courtroom. The defendant, Ms. Terry Hornbacher, is present by the Zoom application, represented by attorney Jacob Huron, who also appears via Zoom. Ms. Rogenbuck, you may proceed.
And where the court has read the motion, to date, I have received no response. The first subpoena was served on counsel on February 8th with the due date of February 26th. On February 29th, the court will remember we were here. We agreed to set aside a default. I again reminded counsel while we were in the courthouse that his subpoena was late. On the 15th of March, my office directed a letter to his office indicating we had not received compliance with the first subpoena yet. On the 10th of April, my office directed a correspondence to counsel indicating we had not received information on the first subpoena, nor for the court's edification has any objection or request to change what was in the subpoena been requested by counsel provided. On the 11th of April, counsel emailed him, again requested the subpoena information. Mr. Huron responded to everything in email except the request for information on the subpoena. On the 25th of April, I got a letter from counsel claiming he never received the first subpoena despite all the emails, texts, and in-person reminders. Counsel received a second subpoena from my office. That subpoena has also been ignored, with the exception for the court's edification. Mr. Huron acknowledged receiving it and indicated he would only comply with it partially. To date, our office has received nothing on either subpoena. This is the pattern in this case, Judge. My client keeps shelling out money. We keep coming to court to get things we're entitled to. We defaulted once. There's now a second default on file with this court because 83 days from the last hearing where they wanted a chance to respond, to file paperwork in this case, to participate, nothing has been filed by Mr. Huron or his client. We are on a second default, so my client can get divorced. Mr. Huron's only contact with me was the end of April, April 27th. He sent me an email, forwarding an email from his client requesting some personal property back. He has made zero attempt to resolve this. He has filed no paperwork. Judge, my client can't keep affording to come to court to do Mr. Huron's job or to do the defendant's job. We're simply asking for a motion to compel, for an order to compel the information that we are entitled to. Mrs. Hornbacher took the child for medical care in December and didn't notify my client until such time as she wanted him to pay the bill for it, and then advised him it was over $1,000 and she wasn't willing to submit it to insurance, indicating that it was tests that the same nurse wanted. The same case was filed in November. There was no same case involved in December. She took the child for medical tests, medical exams, we don't know what, because Ms. Hornbacher and Mr. Huron have never provided the documentation. That's part of what our subpoena is requesting. To date, we've had nothing. There have been no objections filed, which is required by the court rule if he's not going to comply. We're simply asking for the court to compel their compliance with both subpoenas and to order costs and fees associated with this. Thank you, Judge.
Mr. Huron, your response, sir?
Yes. I acknowledged receipt of the subpoena. It was just the timing associated when I actually received it, which isn't really overly relevant as to this not being produced at this time. My client has been looking into getting it. She has, I understand it, received about 200 pages last night from a doctor that is in question associated with the requests, so that we'll be able to turn all of that over to Ms. Rogenbuck. There has been a delay. As far as the default is concerned, unfortunately, there was the default that was set aside, and there was some confusion as to whether an answer had been filed on my end in our system. So it was not filed, which we will be filing a motion to set aside the default again. As far as time and expense associated with coming to court, this is the first time they've come to court on this. We've had numerous discussions. They have not made any type of they haven't tried to resolve the case. They've requested that we send information regarding resolution.
Judge, this isn't relevant to
You can't interrupt me, lady.
Excuse me, Mr. Huron, there's an objection. I need to hear the objection.
Your Honor, I'm objecting whether or not he.
Please stay with your address.
Sorry, I'm going to object. Whether or not we've offered a settlement has nothing to do with the motion before the court to compel.
Very well. Comment to that.
I'm talking generally about the manner of the case and how it's proceeded in the pattern that was described earlier, as far as how
I can understand.
stonewalled.
That part, Mr. Huron, I understand,
The
but the discussion of settlement is not relevant, so the objection is sustained. But
issue that we came into play recently was that my client was locked out of some of the homes that the parties had.
Objection, Your Honor. This has nothing to do with the motion to compel. That's why we're here.
I would agree.
Talking about the pattern of the case, and all of the issues that have happened. Now, there have been requests that have been made at this point in time where Ms. Rogenbuck does not want to have to comply with further discovery, which I don't think is appropriate at this time.
Nothing has been filed with the court.
There's been nothing filed with the court. All we have is in the court review. There is a proof of service for February 8th for the subpoena. And according to Ms. Rogenbuck as an officer of the court, she's received nothing. So I need to know what the response is to that, Mr. Huron.
That we're trying to produce that at this point. I've spoken with my client about this, and she has the information. It's just a matter of, at this point in time, getting it in electronic format to send to Ms. Rogenbuck.
Anything else?
Somewhat of a misnomer, and we're going in the wrong direction. mean, we have a case here where we have an initial agreement, potentially, depending upon,
Again, I'm objecting. If he's saying we have an agreement to settle, there's been no.
we had an
settlement.
initial agreement regarding, custody. The issues that are being brought up at this point in time with the subpoena are regarding custody. It's not as relevant to what we're trying to get addressed in this case. What we're looking at, and we're trying to turn the documentation over. And I understand it's been late at this point, and it is what it is. We're turning the documentation over. We'll be filing a motion to set aside the default. We'd like to go to trial on this in a reasonable manner with reasonable discovery. If we can do one deposition, that should be sufficient, given that there have been significant allegations in this case that are.
I'm objecting.
at this point.
Motion to compel.
I agree. I've heard enough. Motion to compel is granted in this case. Proof of service indicates in the file, February 8th, the subpoena was served to counsel in this matter. Counsel's advised she's received nothing back. At this point, there have been numerous requests as a result. As the motion to compel is granted, and under MCR 2.313, Ms. Rogenbuck, what are you requesting regarding cost of fees?
$1,500, Judge. We've had to file a motion. We've done this dance with opposing counsel for almost 6 months. We've
I don't think
literally.
there isn't any basis to the $1,500. How much time did it take to reasonably file the motion and appear in court?
Submit an invoice to the court to review it, and then we can have a hearing relative to that if there's any objection.
Thank you, Judge. Your Honor, there is one matter to address. I spoke with a friend of the court this morning, and she has requested an order from the court. The stipulated order, the parties entered the temporary stipulated order, requires that counsel receive the psychological examinations. I spoke with a friend of the court. She has received both of them. She would like the court to direct her to distribute those to both counsel, and I would request a protective order be entered then that those not be given out to the public by either party or discussed in the public by either party for any reason.
Ms. Schultz, was that your request?
Yes, Your Honor, it was. Michigan court rules do not allow the court to review records for which privilege may be claimed from our file. I recognize that was a stipulation of the parties. The court can clarify that so that we can proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Perone, do you have any comment relative to that, sir?
We'd be in agreement with the protective order.
I'm sorry?
You would be in agreement with the protective order along those lines?
Very well. I would agree as well. We can release it under those circumstances. So Ms. Rogenbuck, please prepare the order relative to
Would you like one order for both issues, Judge, or would you like two separate?
one order is fine.
Thank you, Judge.
We'll conclude the proceedings, everyone. Thank you.
Thank
DP. This is the plaintiff's motion regarding custody, parenting time, and domicile. Parties are present. Ms. Boyce appears via the Zoom application. Mr. Williams appears in the courtroom. Ms. Boyce, you live in Huron County yet, correct?
Yeah, I had to go out of town to pick up a package for my daughter for her birthday because my neighbors stole the original package and we had to file a police report, so we had to ship it to a different address.
Okay, well, if you're local, we require you to be in the courtroom. So, but we'll proceed. Will both parties please raise your right hands? Thank you for the front of the court on this first. Mr. Holt, good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor. The order regarding custody and parenting time that was entered October 30th, 2023, Your Honor, granted the parties joint legal custody of the minor child, with defendant having sole physical custody. The parties also have week-to-week parenting time year-round from Monday to Monday, alternating holidays, and any other time they mutually agree.
That's during the summer.
You're right, week-to-week year-round.
Oh, it's week to week year-round. I'm
Yes,
sorry.
yes,
I misheard you. I apologize.
I did attempt to have mediation with the parties. I did conduct it separately, with one party at a time. Unfortunately, we were not able to reach an agreement during ADR. The one agreement, I guess, that we did reach was that the defendant, Mr. Williams, would have the minor child from when school got out, which I believe was just yesterday, the 6th, until tomorrow, up until her birthday celebration that is planned. I did draft an order of that and sent it to the parties to sign electronically. Mr. Williams had signed it. I have not received a signed notification from
could you resend it to me? I didn't get it in my email when I've checked my email like 2 days ago and I didn't have anything, Mitch. Sorry.
I would just ask, Your Honor, that with the parties be present, that's still in their agreement, that with whatever the outcome today, that just be added.
Very well. Mr. Williams, is that your understanding of the agreement? At
Yes.
least what you agreed to?
Yes.
Ms. Boyce, is that what you understand as well, being the agreement?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Court will order that, and then the court will just sign the order. You can present it to the court. Thank you. All right, Ms. Boyce, you are requesting custody, parenting time, and domicile. Go ahead, please.
So I know that we had agreed to the week on, week off back in October last year, but prior to that, back in August when I had moved back to Huron County, Carl had pretty much dropped Isadora off, and I understood at the time like his living situation was out of his control. Like, I guess his housing that he had for a long time switched owners. Like the owner passed away, and they started remodeling it, so they kicked all of the tenants out, and he lost his home. So he asked me if I would help take care of her, and I was like, of course I would. And then I took the cat that he had and everything too, and then like while during that time frame he was supposed to try and find other housing and stuff like that, which he did attempt to find. It's just that he hasn't been able to find other housing, so he's staying with a friend. And then he was seeing her like every day after school at least, and I was fine with that. You know, you didn't have somewhere stable for her to stay, but he would show up every day after school and every morning and drop her off. And then it went from that to him slowly not doing that, and he wasn't taking her on weekends and stuff. And there was a point, which is documented in the App Close app that I forwarded, where he didn't pick her up from school at one point when he was supposed to, and a stranger gave her a ride home from school. And that was very upsetting. And then his parenting time slowly kept diminishing even more and more after that. And then he went like almost 2 months without seeing her. And then he's seen her around Christmas time. It was like after Christmas, and I told him that he could take her during the Christmas vacation and everything. I offered that to him and told him, you know, like we had our plans from like the first day of Christmas break to like the day of Christmas. I said, you can pick her up Christmas at 6 p.m. and you can have her all the way till they go back to school. And he didn't do that. And then, you know, I kind of got after him about it a little bit, and he came around like here and there again. And then, he had like stopped showing up again, and then I started talking to Lauren, his ex-girlfriend, and then me and Lauren were talking about it, and I think Lauren yelled at him because then he started like showing up for softball games and stuff again like that. And I will admit that since we had our mediation with Mitch, he did offer to take her finally last weekend, as well as that Memorial Day weekend. So now this is the third weekend in a row. But I'm very upset that it took this escalation for him to start participating in his daughter's life again, because she literally worships the ground her father walks on. Like, this little girl idolizes him so much, and I have seen so much pain in her eyes and so much hurt. And there were moments where he would pick her up and he would take her for an hour, and then he would drop her back off, and she would come in the house crying, and I would ask her what's wrong, and she would tell me, well, my dad said that he had to bring me back because he had to go pick up his girlfriend's kid and things of this nature. And like, that really hurt my feelings, because I know the relationship that they had and the relationship that she wishes that they still continued to have. And I put Isadora in counseling to try and help her with a lot of these things. And there was a lot of acting out and behavioral changes that were very out of character for her that she has experienced. And I did speak with Mitch about all of those things, and they are all documented as well on the App Close app, from me reaching out to Carl. And Mitch admitted himself as well that when I do address those things with him, that he just kind of disregards them and brushes them off. But these are things that I feel are important for her and for me. And I didn't know what else to do besides have to bring him back to court. And like, if you're not going to take her for the week on, week off, which I really don't feel like he's stable enough right now to be doing that. He doesn't have his job anymore. He's doing DoorDash for work and stuff like that. And when he does have her and he's doing the DoorDash, he has to stay down here in the city with his cousin, which is fine because that's a safe place for her. But, you know, like, it just doesn't feel like it's the most stable for her right now. So I would be fine with doing it every other weekend, or like 3 weekends a month, and he can still see her during the week. You know, if he wants to pick her up and take her out for dinner or things of that nature. You know, I'm not trying not allow to be there for her. I actually am doing the opposite, and I'm saying, I don't know what happened, what caused this lapse and this fallback, but she needs you, and I would like him to come back into her life. And if this is all we can do right now while he's trying to get back on his feet and get back stable, then that's fine. But he needs to commit to that, and he needs to continue to show up for her.
Thank you. Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Your response to all this, sir.
During the time that she said that I was not available for Isadora, I actually ended up very sick and I ended up having a double ear infection that left me with vertigo. So I was unable to even get around and get up on my feet. I fell down the steps multiple times. I crashed my vehicle multiple times, had to get everything taken care of. By the time I got the medication for it, that's what led to me losing my job because it kept leaving me drowsy, dizzy, parts like that. So at the time, we was trying to figure out between me and Isadora because of the conflict between me and Electra. Every time, seemed like every other time that we had a conversation, we get into some type of argument or everything. So I just text my daughter phone and ask her whenever her mom felt it was okay for her to come out. That's when we would do that. But the issue became of when I was doing the weekends, I wasn't able to pick Isadora up directly from school to help with the time during that I was helping my girlfriend do her situation with her daughter and her ex-boyfriend. So it was like, okay, well, if I can't get you now, then I'll try to come Saturday or Sunday. And then with the whole
It almost
school.
sounds like you're putting your girlfriend's children's interest in front of your own daughter's.
I mean, I really could only work on the weekends in general because with Benedex, I probably make $200-300 in a whole week. But if I go down to the city and work, I can make $300-400 in like 2 hours doing DoorDash. So I was trying my best to see her every day during the school days, pick her up from school. And then when that situation came up that we never agreed upon me picking up Isadora that one day because she already was informed that I wasn't going to be able to get her. She actually got a ride from one of her school friends' parents who stay right down the street from my house. She did something herself. She planned that herself. She never contacted me, never contacted her mother. That was her situation. I was at the school.
Do you have a home to live in right now?
Yes.
And where's that?
I don't know the exact address, but it's right across the street from Franklin Plaza or Inn, one of the two.
Okay.
I'm not sure which one of those is.
And it's week on, week off.
Yes.
You don't wish to exercise that anymore?
I most definitely do. It was a situation where Electra had explained to me that she wasn't comfortable or Isadora wasn't comfortable with the situation. And after that last court date, Electra had stated, since you do not have your own home, I am currently available to help you with Isadora every day until you get your place. And then at some point in time, everything just started popping up in a bubble. Like she knew I was sick. She knew I wasn't able to get back and forth to work. If she would have dropped Isadora off during that time, that would have been perfectly fine. But I could not get in my vehicle and go anywhere.
So you have your own place then?
No, I'm staying with the friend. It's a 5-bedroom house. Only 3 bedrooms are occupied. There's 2 available bedrooms for Isadora.
Is that your permanent place at this point?
Yes, I've been there ever since I lost my place.
What about the thoughts of a home inspection? Ms. Boyce, what do you think about a home inspection?
I would be fine with that.
And relative to week parenting time, I mean, can you do it?
Yes.
How old is I right now?
11.
11?
Yeah, she just turned 11 yesterday.
I think she just had a birthday. I recall that. What about the thoughts of the court and the friend of the court meeting with the child to discuss this?
I requested that they do, so that way they could get her side of the story as well.
Mr. Williams was nodding his head.
Comfortable with that.
You're comfortable with that? Okay. Court will take the matter under advisement, but in the meantime, the court is going to order a home inspection relative to Mr. Williams' current living arrangements. And we'll do an in-camera session with I and get I's feedback regarding this, and then we can reconvene. Will be appropriate, Schultz.
I would imagine the friend of the court can conduct the home inspection since it's right here in town fairly quickly. As long as Mr. Williams will be in the area, I would defer to the court scheduling for the planner.
Okay.
Could we do the 28th?
Mr. Williams is nodding. Okay.
Okay.
We'll reconvene June 28th, 9 a.m. Prior orders remain in effect. Mr. Williams, you need to schedule with the friend of the court the home inspection. And what we'll do is I'll ask kindly of Ms. Schultz's office to coordinate a time we can child as well. I would appreciate that. then we'll go from there. Is that fair, both parties?
And then in the meantime, the parenting time would be the continued week on, week off?
Yes. Continue prior to it remain in effect. And I can understand the work situation, Mr. Williams, but when it comes to having time with your child, that's numero uno as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, we'll take it from there. Okay. We'll see you back then on the 28th of June. Okay. That'll conclude the matter. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Ms. Boyce?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. As I say, this is a continued hearing. The court was allowed the opportunity to speak with the minor child. We will not mention the minor child's name. We can use an initial, but this child is, I believe, 11.
Yes.
And both of you should be extremely proud of how bright this young individual is. I was absolutely amazed. Mr. Holwood was part of the meeting as well. You two should be very proud of your child. It's just
she's amazing.
She's absolutely incredible, and I'll just keep it at that. Information was provided to the court regarding all of this, and as a part of the understanding here, anything that the child says to Mr. Holwick and I as a part of this motion is to remain private, and the reason for that is we want to make the child comfortable. Is there anything else you want to add regarding why you believe that custody and or parenting time or domicile should change at this point?
No.
Okay. Mr. Williams, do you have anything to add?
No, sir.
No. Mr. Holder?
Just for the record, Your Honor, moving forward, the last hearing along with us speaking with the minor child, I was ordered to conduct a home inspection. I just want to place that on the record that was conducted Thursday of last week of the home of Mr. Williams. The home was found to be adequate and able to meet the needs of the child during parenting time.
Great, thank you. All right. Anything in light of that you want to add, Ms. Boyce?
No, he has been exercising his week on, week off parenting time though since the last court hearing, and he has been working with me more on like co-parenting and stuff like that and disciplining our child, which I am very thankful and appreciative of, and I let him know that.
Excellent. Mr. Williams, anything else to add?
No, sir.
Okay. For any change in custody, there must be either proper cause or a change in circumstance. What is being alleged here is that father had lost employment, and as a result of loss of employment, he did seek other employment and is gainfully employed in the Metro Detroit area, as I understand it from review of the file in this case. And the concern, I believe, of Ms. Boyce is, well, what are we supposed to do? He's not exercising his time. He is working, he's doing this, he's doing that, but he's not spending time with the child and he's not in the area. Well, again, there was issues relative to the home, which Mr. Holwick inspected, and there are no issues with the home according to him, and I trust what he says. And it is week on, week off, and it's during the entire year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the only concern of the court, frankly, is if father is working in the Metro Detroit area come school time, how does that work? Because the child currently attends a local school district, and if father is in a different locale, how is that going to affect the child? That's kind of what it comes down to.
I had that same concern as well, but I'm not sure how he would want to do that. If maybe during the week he would want to try and work and let me have her during the week during the school year, so that way on the weekends he could take her, or if during the week from Monday through Friday he wanted to stay up here and have her so she could go to school, but then drop her off and give her to me on the weekends, so that way he can work during the weekends and make more money. That would be up to him, and I guess I'll allow him to make that decision towards what he also feels would be her best interest, so that way her schooling isn't interrupted, but he still is allowed to work.
All right, well, the court has to look at whether or not there's proper cause or a change in circumstance to warrant review of the factors for custody, the 12 factors the court is to consider under statute. And certainly loss of employment is difficult. Relocation could be also difficult, but at this point, according to the information that I have, Mr. Williams has not relocated yet at this point. Correct, sir?
No, sir.
Still living in Huron County. There may be issues regarding the employment right now, but I don't find any proper cause or change in circumstance warranting a change of custody in this matter. It's by preponderance of the evidence, but from what I've reviewed in the file, as well as heard the child speak, if anything, and again, I'm not going to divulge what the child said, but clearly it doesn't reach the threshold for proper cause or change in circumstance. Now, as to the parenting time side of it, come school year, if there is an issue, Ms. Boyce, you can certainly file a motion at that time regarding a change, because, for instance, if hypothetically, excuse me, if Mr. Williams is not living here, that could cause issues with the child. I don't have that in front of me right now. It's not evident, it's not shown. I don't find proper cause or change in circumstance regarding parenting time as well. Domicile of the minor child will remain as previously ordered in this case. The motion is respectfully denied. I appreciate, though, hearing Ms. Boyce stating that the parties are communicating better and that father's been exercising his time. I don't question for a second that mom and dad don't love their child or don't care for their child. They do, and the child loves mom and dad as well. I can state that. I'm not going to state anything else other than that, but it's going to remain status quo. The motion is respectfully denied. However, Mr. Williams, if there's issues down the road, come school year, while getting the child back and forth, and if you're still not moving, but you're employed at another location, that could be grounds for a parenting time motion, but it's not here at this point. Okay. So, but I want to thank both of you for raising a very bright young individual.
Thank you.
Plaintiff's motion regarding custody, parenting time, and other relief. This is an interim request. Ms. Ferris represents Julie. Now, Ferris represents the plaintiff in this matter who's before the court. And Ms. appears by the Zoom application. She's in pro se. Will both parties please raise your right hands?
Good morning, Your Honor. Good morning. Julian Ferris on behalf of the plaintiff, Sean Smith. We are here today on my client's motion for custody, parenting time, and other relief in the interim of this divorce proceeding. Mr. Smith and his wife, the defendant, Sharon DeLebeck, were married on February 1st of 2021, and Mr. Smith filed for divorce on May 14th of 2024. There are 2 children born of this marriage, Scarlett, age 3, and Sterling, age 2. The testimony will show that Scarlett was born in Kentucky shortly before the parties moved to Michigan, and that both children have spent the majority of their short lives in Huron County, Michigan, and that Michigan is the minor children's home state. We intend to show that it would be in the minor child's best interest that the parties were awarded joint legal and joint physical custody with the minor children with an equal parenting time schedule. And we also believe that the defendant absconded with the minor children since the divorce was filed and is now living in Florida. Therefore, we are also asking that the court order that the children be returned to Michigan immediately. And I'm ready to proceed. Thank you, Your Honor.
Very well. Mr. Liebeck, you wish to provide an opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor. I just want to state that I was seeking counsel, but my attorney had backed out last minute. That's really it. I do have a response to the motion for custody. Is that something that I would read now?
When did you file that with the court?
When did I file? I'm sorry, this response?
Yes.
I emailed it 2 days ago, Your Honor. So the 5th of June.
It's handwritten, correct?
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
All right.
Your Honor, I received no response in this matter.
Why do we wish to proceed then? Why did that, Ms. Ferris?
I would like to proceed and call my client just because I would like an interim at least parenting time and to have the kids return to Michigan if they are in fact in Florida.
Is there a possibility for discussion with the mother relative to that?
I have not spoken with Ms. DeLebeck. I've had a couple conversations with Ms. Salins because I believed that she was going to represent her, but I was informed yesterday, I believe, that she was no longer representing her. But I've received no responses in this. I believe that a mediation possibly could resolve some issues. I'm not opposed to having a mediation with the friend of the court. I'm also not opposed to having this be referred to the front of the court for an investigation on custody, parenting time, and support. The divorce was recently filed, so we do have the 6-month period, but my client has not seen the minor children since May 17th. And so we'd like to get some contact set up with the kids. We're also requesting that my client have exclusive use and possession of the vehicle that he primarily drives during this proceeding, and that just as an interim. Like, our biggest concern right now is to see the children.
Sure. Okay. Miss, where are the children currently?
We are actually in Florida because I had a prior arrangement. I actually have a custody arrangement already with my other two older children, and I had to be here by the 8th of this month. So tomorrow they are going to be meeting with their dad. And also I did, in fact, move to Florida because previously Sean and I had discussed that that is where I have my support, and he told me to move here. Also, our home that we used to reside in Ruth, his mother is the owner, and she has moved in. She wanted the house back, so I had to move out fairly quickly.
What about the status of the automobile?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What about the status of the automobile?
So the Volvo was originally purchased during our marriage for myself and the children because it safely seats all of my children in the back, whereas the vehicle that I have now was actually Sean's primary driver, and it does not safely fit all of my kids. So my oldest, Oliver, who is 11, he has to sit in the front seat, and it is not in very good condition. We do not have air conditioning. It has over 250,000 miles on it. He actually punched the steering wheel many times, so the horn has been disconnected. Otherwise, it'll just be on all the time. And the buttons on the dash do not work.
Are you coming back to Michigan with the children?
I did not have any, aside from just maybe needing to exchange to do a Schedule D long distance policy parenting plan, but I am not returning to move to Michigan. No, like I do not have support there. I do not have anyone to help me there.
The divorce is filed here.
I understand that, Your Honor. I do know that I know about the 100-mile radius rule, but due to the domestic violence, I actually have a PPO filed in the state of Michigan for Tuscola County that I could notify the court once I had made it to my residence after the fact.
Sheriff, call your witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would call Sean Smith to the stand.
Mr. Smith, would you please step up to the witness stand?
So is that the marital home?
It's not the marital home.
And why are you not living in the marital home?
My mom told me to get out of the house. She was going to be moving in, and Shannon had packed all my things up and left them outside in the garage and in my van.
And she also mentioned that she has a PPO on you out of Tuscola County. Is that correct?
She does have a PPO placed against me.
And you have an attorney representing you in that matter?
Yes, I do. Her name is Jessica Risky.
And has that matter been resolved?
It has not been resolved. My attorney in Tuscola County has been trying to serve Shannon for almost a month and has been unable to do so.
Do you have any type of criminal record in your adult life?
In my adult life, I have a littering charge when I was about 20 years old. Before then, I was a teenager and a minor, and nothing in the last 10 years.
So you've had no criminal convictions in the last 10 years?
No.
You have a littering conviction when you were 20 years old?
Yes.
And then you mentioned as a juvenile, you had a juvenile record?
Yes.
And were you tried as a juvenile?
Yes.
And how old were you at the time?
17.
Do you have any prior domestic violence convictions?
No convictions.
Have you had any contact with the defendant since being informed of the PPO?
No.
And has she attempted to contact you?
She was attempted to contact me several times through her phone and her son's phone, Oliver's phone.
And just by calling you?
Calling a few texts and some FaceTime videos that I did not answer.
I'm showing you what's been marked as plaintiff's proposed exhibit 1. Do you recognize these documents?
Yes, I do.
And what are those documents?
These are the documents I printed out. These are screenshots from my phone of proof that she's called me after the protection order has been placed multiple times.
So you took screenshots on your personal phone?
Yes.
And have you altered those in any way?
No, other than blocking out the names of those who I choose to keep private for their safety.
So you blocked out everybody except the times that she attempted to contact you?
Everyone but her and her son's phone calls, yes.
And are these true and accurate copies of your text messages and call logs from your phone?
Yes.
I would ask that these be admitted as plaintiff's exhibit 1, Your Honor.
Your response?
My response? Am I allowed to see these documents?
Yes, the problem is though, it's via Zoom. I'm not sure how that can be done.
Okay.
Do you have any suggestions?
No, holding them up to the camera.
I can't think of any other way.
And I think they're gonna be backwards, not a focus.
No, you're good. Okay. Thank you.
So it starts on the bottom in March 28th, I think.
Yes, ma'am.
And goes up showing Oliver and then your name.
Yes.
Next page, those are in May. Again, there's one from Oliver and then 3, 4 from you.
Yes, ma'am.
Here's just one on April 14th.
Yes, ma'am.
And then I have this, you texting. It's not focusing. Can we trade vehicles? Want to take the kids to the park, grocery shop, and if you can contact Oliver.
Those are correct.
And then Mies, hey, call me.
Oh, those are Oliver. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That covers all of them, sir.
Yes.
Thank you.
The Lebeck, I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm having problems with that name. Any problem with post 1? Any problem with the court reviewing those?
No, those are accurate, Your Honor. And those days are actually like the 14th, for example. I believe that is when he shut off the electricity. So I wasn't sure if it was just something I had to switch on, like a breaker. I didn't know that he had called and like shut off our electricity.
Right. And once admitted, you can cross-examine him relative to that.
Okay.
Ms. Ferris, you may continue.
So has the exhibit been admitted?
Yes. Plaintiff's 1 was admitted.
Okay, so the exhibit shows text messages and calls from your wife after the personal protection order was advised of that.
Yes, correct.
Have you responded to these calls or text messages in any way?
No, not at all.
And has the defendant done anything else to try to get you to violate the order or get you in trouble?
She placed a protection order against me and then preemptively called the police and met me at where I frequent lunch with the police waiting and tried to violate me with a protection order that I was never served at the time.
And how does this make you feel?
Very sad and hurt, and I really miss my kids and I just want to see my kids.
And where's the marital home located?
4575 Ruth Road, Ruth, Michigan.
And how long have the children lived in that home?
Since February 2022.
And prior to the PPO being filed, who lived in that home with you?
Myself, Shannon DeLebeck, Oliver Cook, Everett Cook, Scarlett Wren Smith, Sterling Benjamin Smith. So us two and the 4 kids.
And to your knowledge, where is the defendant living now?
I believe she's living in Inglewood, Florida.
And to your knowledge, does she have the children with her?
I believe she does, yes.
And if you know, when did she leave for Florida?
I believe she left possibly June 1st.
And that was after you filed the complaint for divorce, correct?
Correct.
And when was the last time you saw your children?
I saw my kids May 17th for 24-hour period and returned them to their house in Ruth May 18th.
So you picked them up on the 17th and spent the whole night and whole next day with them?
I spent one 24-hour period with them, yes. Before then, it was about March 28th was the last time I saw them. Before that, and she would not respond to me before the protection order.
And how did that visitation, the 24-hour visitation, go on the March 17th?
It was wonderful to see my kids, even so briefly, but unfortunately, there was some health concerns that I had for my 2 children, so I brought them to the hospital. One, I brought Sterling that night when we picked him up. We went straight to the hospital. He had some cuts and bruises on his arm. And then the next morning, I returned to the hospital with Scarlett to get checked up as well, because she had a cut on the inside of her mouth along her gum line.
Issue.
I'm showing you what's been marked as plaintiff's proposed exhibit 2. What are those?
These are pictures of my Sterling left forearm, and it looks like there's bruises and cuts on him, encompassing his whole arm.
Who took these pictures?
I took these pictures.
And when did you take these pictures?
Took these pictures May 17th, the night that I picked up my kids.
And have you altered those pictures in any way?
I have not altered them. I took them in daylight and under the light in the house, and I have not put a filter on them or anything like that.
And are those true and accurate pictures of your, you said it was Scarlett?
This is Sterling.
Sterling's arm?
Mhm. Yes.
I would like the pictures entered, Your Honor, as plaintiff's exhibit 2.
Want to show those to the defendant?
Yes, please. Thank you. Oh, it's a little blurry, but thank you. Yes, I do. Do I respond to that, or do I just wait?
Do you have any objection to their admission? And then you can, if they're admitted, you can question the witness.
They are accurate, but I do have an explanation for them.
Very, very well. Plaintiff's 2 is admitted.
What was the outcome of your hospital visit with regard to those pictures?
The hospital wrote down that they were arm contusions, and I did tell them what I was told they were from, which was like a dog bite or something.
So just arm contusions, and you were able to take your children home?
Yes.
Can you speak up a little bit more for us, sir?
Yes, most certainly, Your Honor. Thank you.
How would you describe your children's relationship with you?
My children love me. I love my children. I mean, even my 2 stepkids absolutely adore me, and I adore them. I've wanted to be a part of their lives as well as my own kids' lives ever since they came into my own life. I'm very thankful that they're alive, and I wish I could see them more.
And do you have any family or other supports in this area?
I do. I do have my mom. She does live at the Ruth house now. And I do have my aunt, which is my mom's sister. She also lives in Ruth. And then I have various friends that I've met since we've lived in Huron County over the last 2 or so years.
And how is the children's relationship with your mother?
Very good. They're excited when grandma comes by. And I believe she treats them well. And I believe they are excited to be around her.
And what are some activities that you and your children enjoy doing together?
We do all sorts of things. I mean, we love going to the park. We love playing. We love playing with Play-Doh and Legos. And we like to cook. All sorts of things.
And what are some activities that your children and your mom enjoy doing together?
Roughly along the same lines of, playtime. There's a few TV shows we do enjoy watching, like Bluey and Miss Rachel. And some nights we have movie nights. And my mom is very good with the imagination side of like the kids. She likes playing along with that. So.
When you and the defendant were living together as a married couple, who prepared the children's meals?
Most of the night, if I would come home and at a reasonable hour from work, which is usually about like 4 p.m., 4:30, I would be cooking dinner, enough dinner that would probably hold everyone over for lunchtime the next day. And then I'd come back and usually cook dinner again.
And what are your children's favorite foods?
Sterling loves to eat all sorts of foods. He just loves eating all the time. He's not as picky as Scarlett is. Scarlett is picky, but she eats very healthy. She likes bananas and avocados. And I got her on steak a long time ago. She really loves steak.
And you mentioned that you cook with your kids. Can you explain that?
Yes, we love cooking together. It's one of the favorite things we do with each other. Like Scarlett will push the chair over to the counter and she'll climb up, and she likes getting her own bowls and puts the ingredients in the bowl and mixes it around and stuff. It's quite fun.
And what are your favorite TV shows?
We like watching Bluey, like I said, and also there's some Disney Channel shows that we like, Miraculous and like I said, Miss Rachel, which is on YouTube. It's a very informative TV show for kids.
And do you read to your children?
Not as much as I'd like to, but we definitely have plenty of books to read. There are a few books we do like to read, which is about like the Elmo books about brushing our teeth and such. So,
do they have any favorite stories?
Favorite stories. Sometimes we'll sing like the Brush Our Teeth song together. And we have Scarlett and I have a book that was made custom for us that I do enjoy reading to her when I get the chance.
Who bathes the children?
I would say Shannon mostly bathes the children when I'm not at work, but there's times where I would bathe both Scarlett and Sterling.
And who dresses the children?
Shannon likes to dress the children. She likes getting the outfits. I do as well, but Shannon is really good with dressing the kids.
And who puts the children to bed?
Mostly Shannon. Scarlett does like going to sleep with me. So sometimes there's times where I have to lay down with her until she's fully asleep.
And what is a typical bedtime routine like with your children?
Usually after dinner, we try to wind down, like I said, with some Bluey TV show or coloring, Play-Doh. We'll try to work them into like pajamas at some point and try to get them to brush their teeth as often as we can. And eventually they start slowing down between 8 and 9 p.m. They usually try to go to sleep.
What is a typical day like with your children from the time they wake up until you start your bedtime routine after dinner?
Scarlett and Sterling are early risers. They like waking up in the morning and waking us up as well, letting us know it's time to start the day. And we immediately go into cooking eggs for breakfast or playtime. Sometimes the kids will tell us what they want to do that day, like Play-Doh.
And where do you work?
I work at Walmart right now for the last 2 years in Bad Axe.
And does Walmart do any type of background check in order to get a job there?
Walmart does do background checks, absolutely.
And would you have been hired there if you had any type of criminal record?
I would imagine if there was anything outstanding, they would have probably not hired me. Yeah.
But you've worked there for 2 years, you said?
I've worked there for 2 years, yes.
And what is your work schedule like?
My work schedule is rotating. For the most part, I'm normally with a morning shift, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., and then sometimes the 11 to 8 p.m. And then sometimes, occasionally, but 2 times a month, they have me close to 11 p.m.
Is your work schedule flexible so that you would be able to be there for your children if there was an emergency?
My job allows me to be very flexible with my schedule. There's availability that I can just change at any point. And then also the Walmart provides us with 48 hours of protected paid time off that we can use any time of the year without being declined. And there's an additional 40 hours of vacation protected time as well.
So if your child were to become sick and not be able to go to school or something, would you be able to take off work to be there?
Yes, most certainly.
Are you able to provide food, clothing, and medical care to your children?
Yes. I've been the main financial provider for this family for the last 4 years, with a little bit of help from Shannon with the Amazon Flex driving, and then my dad would financially help us as well with some bills when it gets hard.
How do you show your children love and affection?
I love my children so much. I smile at them as much as I can. I pick them up and I hold them as much as I can. I try to just, spend as much quality time with them. I really like spending time with them on my days off when I'm not terribly busy. I really love my children.
Do you tell them that?
I tell them so much.
And is there anything about yourself that affects your ability to give your children love, affection, and guidance?
Absolutely not. It's the opposite. I mean, like just being able to provide and love my kids gives me so much willpower to get everything I need to get done.
And have you had to discipline your children?
Discipline, I think, is a harsh word sometimes. We try to talk to our kids. We try to let them know that we love them and encourage them in positive ways. We're stern when it comes to parenting, but we do not harm our children in ways. We really love our children and try to make them feel really good.
So how is discipline handled if one of your children were to misbehave?
For the most part, we try to talk to our kids. We try to get them to talk to us. We encourage open-minded conversations. We try not to punish anyone by taking away their objects or locking them in the room or grounding them or spanking them by any means.
How do you teach them manners?
Practice what I preach. I say please and thank you often, and I think all 4 kids have wonderful manners. We've been told countless times over the last 7 years how well mannered and nice our kids are. In fact, that the schools love it so much that they make a lot of friends at school.
And how can you tell if your kids are excited about something?
They're very clear when they're excited about something, running and jumping and with joy, and they're always smiling and happy. I've got thousands and thousands of pictures of smiling kids on my phone that are very happy.
And who do they share their excitement with?
They with anyone who's around. They're very excited. They let us know that they're excited, what they're excited about. So they're not shy by any means.
Do they come to you?
Yes, they come to me.
Would they go to Shannon?
Yes, they would.
How can you tell if your kids are upset?
Same thing, we've kind of gotten them on communication skills. Scarlett will physically show that she's upset, but we try to encourage her to just tell us how she feels, and she'll let us know if she's sad or mad and what would be the best outcome for that. We try to communicate with our kids very well.
So how do you respond if they are upset about something?
Usually we just, if it depends on the situation for sure, but we talk to them, we get on their level, we try to get down eye level with them or pick them up and encourage them that everything's going to be okay regardless, and we love them.
And is it your intent to move back to the marital home or stay where you are or get another home?
I'm in a temporary living position right now. I have made the initial steps for filing for an FHA loan and a USDA loan with the Huntington Bank that I've been banking with for 3 years.
So who are you staying with right now?
I'm staying with a friend of mine, Matthew.
And can you describe the home that you're staying at? The number of bedrooms, bathrooms, their yard?
Absolutely. It's a big country yard off of main roads completely. It's on about 5 acres. It's a 4-bedroom house with 3 bathrooms, a detached garage with many hand-planted trees and flowers around the area. It's a very wonderful, beautiful place to live.
And if the children were to stay with you, would they have their own bedrooms?
Yes, there's enough bedrooms for them too.
And would they have their own beds?
Yes, most certainly.
And would they have their own space for their toys and clothes and things like that?
Yes, there's plenty of space, including 2 living quarters and 2 living rooms and a downstairs basement that is furnished as well.
Who makes and takes the children to their doctor's appointments?
Shannon will usually make the appointments and take them if I'm working, and then sometimes we'll make a day of like appointments and shopping trips all at once. We'll all go together. It just depends if I'm off those days. And
in fact, you stated that you ended up taking both children to the emergency room the last time you saw them.
I ended up taking them myself, yes.
And you stated that the defendant does have other children from a previous relationship. Is that correct?
She does, Oliver and Everett.
And how old are they?
They are 11 and 8 right now.
And what is the relationship like between your children and their brothers?
The sibling relationship is actually really good, although the older brothers can be annoyed by the younger babies running around grabbing their toys, but they are overall very happy children together.
And can you describe your relationship with the defendant's 2 boys?
I love Oliver and Everett. I've been their second dad for about 7 years now. It's been a pleasure raising them, and I hope to never lose contact with them.
And do you think that Scarlett and Sterling should have a relationship with their brothers?
Absolutely. I think it's a really good, healthy dynamic to have the siblings in the relationship as well.
So your children are too young for school. So are they in any type of preschool or daycare?
I've been in contact with private daycare providers, but since there's been no contact with my kids other than that 24-hour period in the last 3 months or at least 2 months, that I haven't really gone full into applications because I wasn't sure the status of my children. So.
And prior to the divorce being filed, who would care for the children when you were at work?
The friend that I live with, Matthew, his girlfriend of 5 years, she lives there as well. She's a stay-at-home caretaker for her animals, and she also has she's disabled, so she stays home.
So going forward, what is your plan to have the children watched when you're at work?
If I know the schedule of when I'll be able to see my kids and how often, I will make those arrangements as soon as possible, and I'm ready and willing.
Do you have any mental, emotional, physical, or health problems that would prevent you from properly caring for or providing for your children?
No, not at all.
And regarding the custody, what are you asking the court to award?
I think joint 50-50 custody is really important for the kids, especially over a long period of time. I'm not really enthralled with them living in Florida, being that far away from me. I prefer if they live close to me as possible.
But you are asking for joint legal and joint physical custody?
Yes.
And do you believe that Shannon's a good mom?
I believe that Shannon is a good mom, yes.
And regarding the parenting time, what are you asking the court to award?
Parenting time, I mean, if Shannon is willing to live in Florida, then she should also be willing to let me have the majority custody time for, and then we can alternate like holidays and or also include she gets them for the summer.
If she was living locally, would you want a 50-50 split?
Yes, that's totally reasonable, and I think it's probably good for the kids too.
And what is the year, make, and model of the vehicle that you primarily drive?
I primarily drive a 2007 Volvo XC90.
And are you asking the court to award you exclusive use and possession of this vehicle for the interim of this divorce proceeding?
Yes, it is titled purely in my name, and the Honda is in both of our names.
And regarding real property, there is no real property of this marriage because you were just renting the marital home from your mother, is that correct?
Correct.
And so regarding personal property, are you asking that the judge order injunctions so that neither you nor the defendant may sell, transfer, hide, or encumber any of the personal property of the marriage while this divorce is pending?
Yes, please.
Is there anything else you would like to mention regarding why you should be granted joint legal and joint physical custody and equal parenting time with your children?
I love my kids. You know, it's a shame that these things happen the way they've happened. I don't think it's right that I haven't been able to see my kids more than 24 hours in the last 70 days, which is pretty well because I've been there for her 2 kids for 4 years before we had kids of our own. There's a deadbeat dad. I am not, and I love my kids.
Thank you. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Liebeck, questions of this witness, please.
I'm not even sure what I would ask. I'm sorry. I'm obviously not an attorney, but I have disagreements. Is that something that I would say myself?
When it's your time to present proofs, absolutely, you could do so.
Okay, then
You don't have questions, then?
I don't have any questions for him now.
I do. Whose residence is this that you're currently staying in?
This is my friend that I made at work. His name is Matthew Abushan, and his girlfriend, Annetta King.
And how long have you known this individual that you're staying with?
He trained me at my job, so I've known him for just about exactly 2 years.
Are you originally from Michigan?
We were both born and raised in Southwest Florida. We tried to leave Florida a few times. We ended up in Kentucky, and then 2020 COVID happened, and we both lost our jobs in Kentucky, so we moved to Michigan with family and friends that I know.
So you moved to Michigan, February 2022?
That was when we moved to Ruth. We moved to Michigan in 2020. Okay. November 19, 2020 is when I moved.
And when you moved to Michigan in 2020, was that your mother's home in Ruth?
This would actually be my cousin's house in Jeddah that he knew we needed a place to stay, and he moved himself out. And we moved into my cousin's house in Jeddah. It's about an hour south of here. And we lived there for about a year. And then my mom used an FHA loan to purchase the house in Ruth for us. So that's where we've been living since February 2022.
You mentioned something in your testimony regarding applying for a loan. You're looking at a home?
Yes, sir. Yes. Well, I know that where I live now is going to be mostly temporary. He said there's no time limit, but I know that I can't raise kids in someone else's home. So I've been working 2 years to try to get the consistent income so I can make the efforts to apply for the application for the house. So that's what I'm doing now. It's been 2 years now. So
okay, you don't have a home in mind, but you're in the process.
Right. I also needed to know exactly where this was going to end up because that would be determining where I'd be living as well. But preferably if we can, I mean, I think everything's been done in this state, in this near this county. I think it should be up here.
Were the children were born in Michigan?
My child Sterling, yes, 2 years ago he was born in Bad Axe here, and then Scarlett was born in Kentucky but moved to Michigan 3 months later.
Your Honor, may I ask a question?
You will, yeah, I'll give you that opportunity, but how do we handle if your spouse is living in Florida and you're living here in Huron County? How do we proceed at this point forward on a temporary basis? What are you requesting?
When I met Shannon, she had 2 kids of her own, and ultimately we ended up hiring an attorney in Kentucky, in Michigan or Kentucky, I can't remember. I think it was Michigan 1 the first time we moved here. It's been a crazy few years, but eventually we hired an attorney with her, the father of her kids in Florida. So they have an arrangement right now where she brings the kids down to Florida for the summers and alternating holidays, and that's what we've been doing with the boys for the last 5 years or so. I just assume if she wants to live in Michigan, it would be somewhat similar. Just I bring them down. I do have family in Michigan and Florida as well. I think I got those mixed up. If she wants to live in Florida, I have family in Florida as well, and I can drive them and pick them up for the summers and the alternating holidays.
Right. But what I'm asking is, if the court has to make a decision right now about where the children go, and it sounds like you want to work with your spouse about this.
I'm trying my best to be reasonable and cooperative. She has been the opposite, and I just want to find some sort of moral ground where we can meet in the middle.
Okay, so what is the middle to you? What does it look like to you? Is it like, for instance, week on, week off? Is it 2 weeks with mom, 2 weeks with dad?
It would be really hard to manage those frequent trips all to Florida. Back, even flying would just be astronomical price for what I can afford. I would just probably lean towards I'm trying to be as fair as possible. I'm not asking for more than what I think I deserve, but if she wants to live in Florida, I feel like I should have majority custody, and then I can bring them down to her alternating holidays and the summers, just like how we have a deal with the boys.
So you're proposing for the summer right now, to keep the children there?
I'm not all the way happy with it, but if it satisfies the court, I'm willing to make, if I can get them back at the end of the summer for the majority of the time until holidays approach, I'm willing to please the court with that.
As far as questions in light of the courts.
So you're asking that the children be returned to Michigan and that their primary physical domicile is with you in Michigan if she intends to stay in Florida?
Correct, yeah, and go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have no other questions now.
Ms. DeLebeck, you said you have questions. Go ahead.
I do. Sean, is it true that originally you wanted to move to Kentucky? Like that was the plan, to get the FHA loan and end up moving to Kentucky because you had no intention of staying in Michigan?
Plans change, and I'm trying to just do exactly what I can do with what I'm given. I'm willing to make many changes and cooperate, but there's got to be some sort of, moral high ground for the kids. So I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make the kids comfortable and happy as possible, whatever it takes.
Okay, and then another question: is it true that you told me to move to Florida, to move in with my mom, more specifically with the kids, and then we would do parenting that way?
If we're going off what we said to each other for the last 3 years, you've been telling me that's exactly what your plan has been. I've got text from 3 years ago, you telling me you were going to take the kids to your mom's and move back to Florida and get a job, and you didn't need me. That's what you've been saying. I'm here now. I'm so sorry to have it turn out this way. I just want to see my kids, please.
Okay, but the question was, is it true that you told me to move to Florida most recently, like within the last 3 months? Have you told me to move to Florida with the kids into my mother's home?
You proposed many ideas, and I just started agreeing to them about the divorce, and I said we could talk about it, and you never wanted to talk about it.
Okay, no further questions.
All right. Any other questions, Ms. Ferris?
No, Your Honor.
You may step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your next witness, Ms. Ferris.
I would like to call Ms. Shannon DeLebeck for cross-examination under the statute.
Sure. And it is my parents' other property. So I have a house to myself with my children.
And when did you move there?
I moved there June 1st.
And who lives with you in your home?
Myself, Oliver, Everett, Scarlett, and Sterling. So myself and my 4 children.
And is it your intention to remain in Florida?
It is my intention to remain in Florida because that is where my support system is.
Regarding Exhibit 1, the text messages and the calls, why are you continually attempting to contact your husband even after entering a PPO?
So let me just go back to my notes. For example, the 14th, I called because I did not know how to turn on a breaker or even really where it was located. So that would explain that one. Other times, I remember I saw him driving the Volvo, and previously I had contacted the police. We were going to exchange vehicles when it was fixed, and they called me back and said that he had no intention of returning it and that it was still broken. But then roughly a week or 2 later, I saw him driving the vehicle. So I called to ask if we could exchange it, meeting in a parking lot and just exchanging the vehicles. And then other times, if Scarlett was inconsolable and crying for her daddy, I would FaceTime and I was going to let her just speak to him. But again, I understand because of the order that is, not, he didn't want to answer. I understand that that's why. And I know it's the law. And then also my son, that was him contacting him on his own behalf, whether it was to ask how to turn on the breaker himself or what have you, but he misses his dad. Many times, even before the PPO was in place, I told Sean that if he wanted to contact or visit with the children, to contact his mother or his aunt while this was going on, and then we could coordinate that way. That way nobody is actually contacting, but he made no efforts to do so aside from the 17th and 18th, to which I supplied the clothing, the diapers, the wipes for his overnight stay.
You understand that you can't do indirectly that which you can't do directly.
I'm sorry, I misunderstand. Like I would call his mother or his aunt, ask them if he had any availability to be, and we would switch kids through the aunt or through his mother. Does that make sense?
It does, and I'm asking if you understand that third parties you can't contact a third party to contact him, and he can't contact a third party to contact you.
I didn't know.
That's a violation. Do you understand that?
I do, but I didn't see that as listed as part of the violation. I thought, from what I understood, that was okay to do so because it was a neutral third party.
Are you purposefully attempting to get him to violate the order by continually contacting him?
Not in the slightest bit. That was never my intention. And I also did not call to get the order served. I will explain that later as well, but I did not do that to trap him in or anything.
Did you file the PPO in an attempt to get an advantage over your husband in this divorce?
No, not at all. So I actually have here a wellness check that his mother called in. And it's actually, I submitted it to the court as well. But I did not call the police, and she's the one that suggested that I should get a PPO because of the verbal threats and abuse. She actually called him and she was scared. So she called the police because she thought he was going to come to the home and damage the home and or us. So that's why the welfare check was called. And I filed the PPO the next day.
By removing your children from the state, are you attempting to frustrate or destroy the father-child bond?
Not in the slightest. Again, I would love to be able to, I understand with the PPO that is different, but I would love to be able to be on common ground and he can, talk or visit at any time that he would like to. Me moving to Florida has nothing to do with taking the kids away from their dad. He moved out of the home on the 16th by his own doing because he was having an affair with a woman at his job. So this was not a decision made lightly. Like I wanted to stay in Michigan, but there was no feasible way for me to do so because I didn't have the support that I needed. So I moved to Florida because even he and I discussed this, that I should move there because I have the support here.
Isn't it true that Mr. Smith has a good and loving relationship with Oliver and Everett?
I would say that he does have a good relationship with Oliver and Everett. So Oliver was actually very hurt that he wouldn't talk to him or answer the phone. He was very hurt by that. And when he did see him on the May 17th and 18th, Oliver was very hurt by the fact that Sean said that I had made it illegal for him to contact Oliver, that it was all my doing. But yes.
You understand that you did, in fact, make it illegal for him to contact your son.
Again, I didn't know that was part of it because in the order, it just says that he is not allowed to contact me. It doesn't say he's not allowed to contact my son. He's just not allowed to contact me or harass me in the order. So
And isn't it true that Mr. Smith has a good and loving relationship with Scarlett and Sterling?
Absolutely, he does. He was very loving and had a great standing relationship with both of them. Although towards the end of our relationship, it seemed that he was just coming home and getting high because he smokes marijuana, which I know is legal in the state of Michigan, but then he was also doing mushrooms just to be able to put up with us. And he wasn't home a lot, and I did all like family functions by myself. Like I took the kids to family fun day by myself, and the community would help me with my 4 children alone while I was alone.
So you do have supports in this community?
I had a few friends that I had made, but I do not have anywhere that I could go and stay as my home is gone, and I do not have I have more support here. I have a lot more job availability. I don't have to drive 30 minutes to get to town and so on.
You believe that Mr. Smith is a good father, correct?
I agree that he is a good father, although I think he just I just wish that he didn't have to get high to put up with us, if that makes sense. I think he's a great father when he's not under the influence. That's how I would like to say that, please.
And you mentioned that you would like to work with Mr. Smith to come up with a plan that would be best for your kids?
Absolutely. I would love to work with, yes.
And you said that the reason you filed the PPO was on the advice of your mother-in-law?
Well, we actually had an event happen on the 5th. He did not sleep in our bed for the 2 years that we lived in that house. He slept on the couch. I slept upstairs in our king-size bed with Scarlett and Sterling. And that particular evening, I begged because I wanted him to lay with us, and I didn't want the relationship to end. I'm sorry. So I was begging him to come and lay in our bed, and he wouldn't. He refused. And then finally, I just thought it was weird. So I asked if anything was going on, like why he just didn't like me anymore. And I asked if I could see his phone, and he freaked out, and he slapped me across the face, and he dragged me through the house, and he threw me on the stairs, and he slapped me, and he punched me, and he kicked me in my legs, mostly on my legs. I don't remember. And I didn't file a police report because because I wanted things to work out. I don't know. And in the past, he would threaten me by like hurting me more, or he's taken my phone in the past, or he's barricaded the door or blocked it so I can't get out of any exits, or just confined me to a room. I'm sorry, I lost train of thought. So that happened on.
There are no police reports or records of this.
There is not, but on the wellness check, I did mention it, and it is in the report here for the wellness check. Yes, and then I didn't submit them, but I do have photos of my bruises as well. And this was taken on the 16th, so 2 weeks after the incident, and I still have a very visible bruise on my leg.
And what was the date of the alleged incident?
The 5th. March 5th.
Do you feel that this marriage is salvageable?
I do not anymore. I'm realizing now that that we are probably better separate. But I do think that he is a good person on his own.
So the two of you can't get along together, but you think he's a good person and a good father, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I have another question,
Ms. DeLebeck, this is your opportunity to share with the court what you believe the court needs to hear relative to this motion.
Okay.
I would like to recall my client, if that's okay. I have a few more questions in light of the defendant's questions.
We'll do that first. Ms. DeLebeck, we'll just wait just a moment. Stay right there, sir. You're still under oath.
She mentioned that you packed up and moved out of the home of your own volition. Is that true?
No, my things were packed up for me. My things were packed up for me.
And why did you move out of the home?
We weren't getting along, and although those allegations are trumped up, I mean, that's not how things went or in the timeline. She's just kind of cherry picking what she seems to throw in. The talks between her and I about like figuring out who gets the kids and parenting time and stuff like that, those were all when we were cooperating. And then ever since she decided she didn't want to cooperate because of protection order against me, I decided to change my mind because I thought she was going to work with me.
But so why you didn't want to move out of the home?
I didn't want to end the relationship. I never wanted to. She screamed. She hated me for years and years, and she told me many times over she literally wanted a divorce. I have text proof of that. She screamed it out and she screamed. She cried in front of me, said she hates me. She hates me. She hates me. All I did was try to keep together,
So she packed up your stuff?
She packed up everything very nicely and put it in the garage of the van, and she told me when I pick it up, she made sure that she would be there. And I tried for many, many weeks until the protection order was placed. To see my kids. I text her, and she would always ignore it. She just wanted money in the car.
And what about the affair? Are you having an affair?
I haven't had an affair. She's been throwing an affair at me for 7 years that has never existed. Every time we move to a different place, she just makes up this affair thing. Nothing happened when I was married to her when we were together. Absolutely not. There was no affair.
And what about the allegations of getting high and doing mushrooms?
I prefer not to drink alcohol. I don't like alcohol to the means. I don't do mushrooms or ecstasy or anything like that. I smoke pot occasionally that I get at a legal store, I guess so. But it's not to put up with anybody or anything like that. That's not how it works.
And do you smoke to excess?
No, I would say no. I'm fully functioning. I've held a job. I'm always busy. I help coworkers, old lady coworkers with things outside of my job all the time. Another ones I help them, with projects.
Do you get to the point where you are unable to care for your kids?
No, absolutely not.
Do you do this around the kids?
Occasionally I have done it around the kids, but I don't smoke cigarettes or drink alcohol or anything like that, like some people do or anything like that. I have done it around, yes, but I don't. It's not what I'm doing around that full time.
How often would you say?
I mean, often I would say, but not during work hours or anything like that. I don't do it during work or anything like that. It's just maybe sometimes in the morning and then sometimes before that.
Okay. And speaking of bed, are you not sleeping in the marital bed?
I was for a long time until it started disrupting my sleep enough where it was Shannon and two babies and then myself in a king size bed. It's very spacious for sure. But when I was getting home at 11 p.m. and taking an hour online, I was just on the couch and ultimately just fall asleep because I was so exhausted. But I wasn't actively trying to avoid her or the bed. I would love to sleep in my own bed. In fact, I've asked to sleep in my own bed. It's been a process trying to get the kids to transition to their own beds.
And do the kids have their own beds?
They do have their own beds, and it's hard work to try to get them to sleep in their own bed. But a lot of times they just fall asleep in our bed. We transfer them over, and then if we didn't transfer them over, we just fall asleep in the bed. But I haven't been sleeping in bed as much as I'd like to. That's not. I'm not trying to hurt anybody by that.
She accused you of slapping her, kicking her, dragging her through the house. Is this true?
That seems so crazy that if I'm so bad, why has nothing been said or done before officially? I mean, it just seems way overblown, and it sounds like she's just trying to cherry pick with a little bit of embellishment there.
So have you slapped her or kicked her or grabbed her, dragged her through the house?
I have not grabbed her and dragged her through the house. I wasn't punching and kicking her legs until they were bruised. It's crazy.
Do you have any idea how she would have gotten the bruise on her leg?
After what I've seen lately, I'm almost suspicious that she's trying to intentionally entrap me into some sort of issue.
Is this a pattern in your relationship?
No, I would say no. I couldn't detect a pattern.
Okay, so do you believe she's doing this because you filed a divorce?
I think for a long time she tried to have leverage over me, and she'll make something up so that I have to defend it, so that she has her own moral high ground that she can stand on that I had to defend this and I'm guilty until proven innocent. It's no.
So you said you have no domestic violence convictions and no criminal history, at least not the last 10 years, correct?
Yeah. I would say everything's mutual, and this isn't me hurting anyone. I went to work every single day. I went to work every single day. I raise my kids every single day. I don't go to bars. I don't do anything crazy like that. I love my kids. I just want to provide for the best I can.
And you have nothing further, Your Honor?
Mr. DeLebeck, you have the right to question further.
I don't have any other. I don't know. I'm sorry, Your Honor. I'm not an attorney, but I disagree. I am disappointed that he lied under oath. It's false. What he is saying, and he knows what he did, and he has done many things previous. We actually only have two chairs. Well, we did at our old house because he broke our two dining room chairs by throwing them.
Is this her testimony now, or is she not having more questions?
Do you have any questions of this witness?
Sean, is it true that you broke two of our kitchen chairs?
You know that Oliver broke the chair leaning back on it. You left it outside for me to fix it. So you know that answer right there.
That happened after.
Excuse me. Is that a yes or no? Did you break the chairs?
Oh, did I break the chairs? No.
That was your question.
Oh, no, sir. Oliver broke one of the chairs, and I'm not sure how the other chair broke. I'm not sure which time she's referring to, what exactly this is referring to exactly. I don't know.
All right, Ms. DeLebeck, you may continue.
Okay.
She's referring to what exactly this is referring to exactly. I don't know.
All right, Ms. DeLebeck, you may continue.
Okay. Okay. One moment, please. Is it true that you have a domestic violence charge for strangulation of a past relationship? And I believe it was while you were an adult.
Yeah, I was an arrest, but I was never charged. She came to court and she dropped the charges. This was in Florida and, well over 11, 12 years ago.
is it true that you blocked me in the parking lot of the Lugos parking lot while I was getting lunch? Did you pull behind my vehicle and block me into the drive-through?
I couldn't have blocked you in the drive-through if I was behind you. No, she preemptively called the police, knew that I was going to be there on lunch, showed up. My kids saw me in the back of the car. I walk up to the back of the car. I'm talking to my kids in the back of the car. I paid for the food as she's going through the drive-through. By the time she came around, there was 3 cop cars. There was no blocking. I wasn't even in the car when I saw her. I wasn't even in the car when I saw her. No. I was going to leave the parking lot. I was in the parking spot. She comes in. My daughter saw me, points at me saying, "Daddy, Daddy." I haven't seen him in a month. I got out and I talked to my kids for the first time in a month at that point.
Next question.
I guess I have no further questions. I'm just ready to speak on my behalf, I guess.
Okay, I just have a few more questions. Sir, when you were talking about things taken out of context, so to speak, or cherry picking, I just need to get to the chase here. Did you ever strike the defendant?
Is it fair to ask her if she's ever struck me?
I didn't ask that.
Yes, sir. Yes, Your Honor. I have in the past made retaliatory strikes for my own safety. She is much more malicious than she goes on to be.
Okay, so did you drag her through the house?
No, Your Honor, no.
Okay.
I know that the night she's referring to, I tried to leave the house that night. She was restraining me from me.
What is your relationship with your own mother?
My own mother? It's been up and down. My mom abandoned me when I was about 2 or 3 years old. And then when I was about a late teenager, she started coming around the picture more often. My dad would fly me up to Michigan to see her 1 week in the summer when I was a child. We've been a lot closer over the years. But I think my mom has been also manipulated by Sharon a little bit because ultimately, I talked to my mom a couple of days ago and she said she's so sorry for everything she did. She was just taking the word of shame.
We can't go into what your mom may have
Yes,
said.
sir. Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Yeah, I have no other questions. Any further proofs, Ms. Ferris?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. DeLebeck, you have the right now to speak to the court. What would you like to tell the court? And you're under oath.
Okay. I'm just going to go through my response here because that's all I know how to do.
I've read it.
Okay. Okay, then I will go through my points here. The first day since Sean had left the home, that he actually saw them was in fact the 28th. He stopped by to get the Volvo ready because he said he was going to fix it so that I would have a car to drive and then he would take the Honda. So he was at our house on that day for about 1 hour. Then on April 8th, that was the day that he pulled behind me in the Lugos parking lot in his girlfriend's vehicle, and with his girlfriend in the car. And there was cars in front of me. So he was parked behind me. I was in between cars. I didn't see them when I pulled in. I was just getting lunch. I didn't know what time I don't know what time his lunch is or anything. I didn't seek him out. I did roll down the windows. He did initially try to open the door to take Scarlett out, but I said, please don't take her out. And he didn't. He closed the door and I rolled down the windows and I let him speak to her. But initially he was swearing at me from the parking lot, just being a little aggressive. The owner of the restaurant is actually the person who called the police because he saw what was going on from the drive-through. He didn't think he thought it was a very weird situation. And then Sean did in fact pay for my lunch, but when Sean walked away and I went to go pull around for the food, the owner of the restaurant said, I called the police. I could tell that you were very uncomfortable. So I did not call the police in that situation and I didn't try to trap him in any way, shape, or form. Then on May 17th and 18th, Sean did take the children overnight, but I supplied the clothing, the diapers, and the wipes and everything. As far as the marks on my son's arm, he was playing with the dog and laughing while the dog was biting. I didn't know that it was actually like making bruises, but they were fine. There was no cuts or anything like that. It was just bruising. As far as my other daughter, she did have a mark inside her gums because she was jumping on our bed and she got the corner of the table. It was just bad timing for him to get them the next day after this incident. I do not physically harm my children and I make sure that they are safe. Also, again, back to the calls, I did try to allow him to see them and I did try to arrange, and I understand apparently that was not allowed, but according to the PBO that I had, it didn't say anywhere that we couldn't use a third party, and it didn't say anywhere that my son couldn't call. It just said that he was not allowed to contact me or me. I don't even think it said me contact him. It just said he wasn't allowed to contact me, but I understand. Excuse me for one moment, please. He stated in his questions that he enjoys, like my daughter enjoys watching the YouTube shows, but he shut off the access to the YouTube when he moved out of the house. And then he said he did enjoy cooking meals with the children, but when he would come home from work, he would cook himself a steak, and it was his steak. He would cut off little pieces for us, but for the most part, he would just prepare himself his thing. I'm not saying that he never prepared meals for all of us. I'm just saying towards the end, it was a little bit more selfish. And yes, I was upset. And that was another part of the reason why our marriage was failing. And the book that he said, the custom book, I made the book for him and Scarlett for him to read. Another reason why I called him was because I saw him driving the car and I wanted to trade the vehicles. And then, like I said, he would sleep on the couch for pretty much the entirety of our relationship because he did not like to be disturbed at nighttime. Even actually when I gave birth to Sterling in a hospital after I had my C-section, he would get upset with me if I woke him up to try and get him to pass me Sterling. So I would, right after getting a C-section, would get up to get my son. And I was responsible for taking the children to the doctor's appointments. I took them to family fun days. I took them everywhere with me, everywhere I went. And when he would have his days off, he was busy. He was working on cars for friends or doing things for other people. As far as the affair goes, people from his job called me to let me know what was going on. And that day, I did not cause a scene. I had my friend drive me and the children. She took the children to her house, and then we drove to his job and calmly went in and grabbed the keys. I just went up and spoke to the manager and just asked if they could get the keys because I needed car seats, and I needed a vehicle to be able to pick up my children. And it was a calm exchange. And again, I didn't really hear much from him after the fact. I do know that he does have a history of domestic violence with past relationships. I don't know the extent of all of them. I did try to reach out and get files, but I'm not sure if they were all in Charlotte County or if some were in Sarasota County. I'm sorry, I'm just gathering my bearings and my thoughts. He did reach out a few times before the PPO was in place, demanding to see the kids, but it was on his terms. He wanted to bring them to a house that I didn't know. And again, like I said, he was having an affair. I don't know the girl. I don't know the family. I don't know where he was staying. I don't even know the house that he is staying at now. I've never seen it. I just didn't feel comfortable with him taking the children there, but I was willing to meet at a place, at a park, let him play with them. I just didn't feel comfortable with him smoking marijuana and driving around with the children. And I guess that's really, I mean, that's really all I have to say, I guess.
Spears, any questions?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Final
Proceed
argument.
to
Spears.
final argument. Your Honor, I would say typical of any divorcing couple, there's issues and they obviously can't get along, but both parents have testified that they are good parents, that he is a good dad to those children and that she is a good mom to those children. And even though the two of them can't work it out, they both expressed the willingness and ability to cooperate to do what is best for the kids. So with regard to the first factor, the love and affection and other emotional ties, the emotional ties are very strong between the children and their father and his family. They look to him as well as their mother in times of excitement and sorrow. Factor two, the capacity and disposition of the parties involved to give the child love, affection, guidance. Mr. Smith intends to remain in Huron County. He has established a home that does have ample space for him and his kids to have their own space, a big yard, a nice community, and he is in the process of getting a permanent home so that he can have a space for him and his kids. You know, in a transition of a divorce, there's always moving and who's going to stay in the marital home and who's going to go live with a parent or friends, and that's what we're going through right now. But he does have the ability to take care of them, to enroll them in daycare and school when that time comes, and he obviously intends to do so. Factor three, the capacity and the disposition of the parties involved to provide the child with food, clothing, medical care. Mr. Smith is gainfully employed. He is able to support the needs of his children. He is able to provide them with food, clothing, medical care. He has been the primary breadwinner of the marriage for the last, I believe, 4 years he testified to. The defendant is unemployed. She has not had stable employment since prior to COVID, and at this time she is unable to properly provide for the children. The length of time, factor four, that the children have lived in a stable, satisfactory environment and the desirability of maintaining that continuity. The children have lived their entire lives in Michigan and most recently in Huron County, and Mr. Smith intends to continue to live here. He does have the support of his mother and his friends to assist him with caring for both children. He testified that his home is a loving, stable environment and a good area to raise his kids. The defendant uprooted the minor children, not only from the only home they ever had, but also from the entire state of Michigan, and just absconded with them to Florida. Factor five, the permanence of a family unit of the existing proposed custodial homes. It's unknown to me if the defendant has suitable housing or a reliable support system. She said that that was where her support system is, but we also don't know who she's living with or where she's living or how that is. Mr. Smith does have a stable home and a stable family, and he does have a community support system with friends, co-workers, as well as his mother. Moral fitness of the parties involved. The defendant is attempting to undermine this divorce and my client by removing the minor children from the state of Michigan, by taking out this PPO, by lying about my client's behavior, and I believe she's trying to get an advantage in this divorce when my client has one littering charge from when he was 20 on his record. Factor seven, the mental and physical health of the parties. There's no mental or physical problems or medications with either party. The homeschool community record of the child. The children are 2 and 3, so they're too young for this to really apply at that time. And that goes with factor nine, the reasonable preference of the child. At 2 and 3, they are too young to express a reasonable preference. But the willingness and ability of the parties to facilitate and encourage a close and continuing parent-child relationship between the child and the other parent. Mr. Smith is willing and able to share custody and parenting time. He's willing and able to facilitate a continued parent-child relationship, as well as a sibling bond between the two children of this marriage and defendant's other 2 sons. Mr. Smith has been cooperative throughout this process. He has strictly abided by the PPO despite numerous attempts by the defendant to contact him through text messages, phone calls, pulling up behind him in the drive-thru. Hill is lying and undermining my client to seek the advantage, and by moving the children without my client's knowledge out of the state, doesn't show that she's willing to facilitate and encourage a parent-child relationship. She doesn't seem to care about an ongoing relationship between the children and my client. Domestic violence, regardless of whether the violence was directed against or witnessed by the children, there is no domestic violence or criminal history with Mr. Smith. He has a juvenile assault charge from when he was 17. Again, everything is over 10 years ago and should not be considered by this court. There is no criminal history. There is no domestic violence. And then I would leave any other factor up to the court's discretion. But I don't think the defendant's making decisions that are in the children's best interest. She's clearly putting herself before the children in their best interest by moving them to Florida, by not allowing them contact with their father, by attempting to undermine him to seek an advantage over the children. If she's allowed to continue to act this way, it will be detrimental to the children and the relationship with their father and their relatives in Huron County. For the many reasons I just stated, I respectfully request that the defendant return the children to Michigan immediately. That the parties be granted joint legal and joint physical custody of the children. However, if the defendant plans to permanently move to Florida, I would ask that Mr. Smith be awarded sole legal and physical custody of the children. And then I would be requesting the parties, well, I'm requesting that the parties share an equal parenting time. However, again, if the defendant intends to stay in Florida, I would ask that she be granted parenting time at a duration and frequency that would promote a strong and loving relationship with her and the children. We are also asking that Mr. Smith be awarded the exclusive use and possession of the 2007 Volvo XC90. And we are asking that a mutual restraining order enter so that neither party can remove, sell, hide, or encumber or dispose of any of the personal property of the marriage until further order of this court. Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. Mr. Liebeck, your final argument.
I guess I just want the court to know that I have no intention of making our children's relationship with their dad or bad. Like, I want them to have a relationship, but I don't think it's in the best interest of them being removed from where we are, because they've been with me since day one. Like, I've been the primary caregiver at home. Yes, he's been the primary breadwinner, but I also worked. I did Amazon Flex with my children in the car. I helped support the family too. I wasn't just unemployed. I did things. I also, I'm in the process of trying to start my own business. I sew and I make memory bears, and I make stuffed animals and children's clothing. I do okay for myself. I am in the process, since I just moved, of getting a job here. I have a few leads. As far as that goes, the house that we are staying at is solely our house. It's myself and my 4 kids. There is nobody else. We have our own rooms. I just ask that we adhere to the Schedule D long distance policy, but I think that it would be best if the children remained here with me, because that's where they've always been. And that's what Sean and I discussed before all of this. And I didn't move here without his knowledge. I spoke to him on March 28th. I told him exactly where I was going to be living. I think this is his form of retaliation. I'm not sure. I am not vindictive and I'm not evil. I want the best for everyone. I don't even want him to be in trouble. I want us to both be good parents together, working together. I would also like to request, I forgot to mention, that he took our tax return this year, and I would just like the half of the tax return that would be my half to be returned, because initially he said he would give me half to move here, but it didn't end up that way, and he has all of it. And then I would also like him to remove himself and his debts from my cell phone plan. After the, I want to get the date correct. On 3/15, he asked me to be added as an account manager on my account on my phone plan, and I allowed him to do that, and he got a new Apple Watch and it's on my credit. Granted, he has been paying the bill, but I would like him to remove himself from my account, please, so I'm not stuck with a debt if he does decide not to. So he has the rest of his cell phone and the watch on there. And then I would also like, if he's not willing to return the Volvo, I would just like possibly the Kelley Blue Book value of the vehicle so that I can get another reliable vehicle to safely provide for myself and my family. And I would still like to keep the PPO active that is currently in place. I guess
that's in Tuscola County, correct?
Yes, sir. Or yes, Your Honor.
Okay, why didn't you apply in Huron County?
I went to the women's shelter in Caro, and that's who they go through.
Very good. Okay, thank you. All right. Lots to unravel here. I don't need any rebuttal, but I appreciate it. So, this is a motion for initial determination relative to the parties involved. There are two minor children, ages 2 and 3, respectively. Parties were married on February 1, 2021. Currently, the plaintiff resides in the Fillion, Michigan area, Huron County. The defendant resides in Englewood, Florida. I'm not sure which county that is in Florida. What confounds things here is that there is a personal protection order that was authorized apparently in Tuscola County. I don't have a copy of it, so I have no idea what it contains. The issue before the court is, what do we do in the interim here? And frankly speaking, with two minor children, hearing the testimony of the parties involved relative to factor A, the love and affection, other emotional ties existing between the parties involved and the children, clearly I believe that tie to be equal. Again, this is just an interim basis that the court is considering the testimony, and frankly speaking, there's not a lot to go on. But I find that factor to be equal based upon the testimony presented. Regarding capacity and disposition of the parties, factor 2, to provide the children with love, affection, and guidance. Again, I find that factor to be equal based upon the testimony that the court has heard so far this morning and afternoon. Again, it's very limited, but this is an interim request, and so the court's kind of limited as to what is here. But according to the testimony of Dad regarding cooking and reading, and Mom being the stay-at-home mom, clearly I think that factor is equal. Regarding capacity and disposition, the parties involved to provide the children with food, clothing, and medical care, other remedial care recognized. That factor is also equal. Father appears to be the breadwinner at the time that this marriage was going and the parties were residing together. Mom did some work, but she was also the caretaker in the home with 4 children, frankly, the 2 older children of hers, her prior relationship, and the 2 children here involved in this relationship. And so I find that factor to be equal, also considering the testimony of mother that she has abilities and skills, and she's looking for work in the state of Florida. Regarding the length and time the children have lived in a stable, satisfactory environment, at this point in time, all I know is that the parties were married on February 1, 2021. At least one of the children had been born in Huron County. I can't remember if the first child was in Kentucky or Michigan. I believe it was Kentucky, but regardless of that, the children have been residing with both mother and father together. And so we don't have a significant length of time here. The children are young, but they were residing with both parents. It appears primarily in the Huron County area. So slightly favoring father a bit. Regarding the permanence as a family unit of the existing and proposed custodial home or homes, both individuals, parents live in temporary arrangements. The plaintiff resides in a home that is occupied, I believe, by a co-worker and spouse. They have animals there as well. Mother lives in the state of Florida in a home that she testified to is owned by her parents, but the only individuals in the home besides herself are the 4 children. So there's really no permanence as to either party in this case, so the court finds that factor to be equal. Regarding moral fitness of the parties involved and the mental and physical health of the parties involved, the court didn't hear really anything relative to that, so there's nothing for the court to consider. The homeschool and community records of the children, there are only 2 and 3, so there are really no records. Ms. Ferris, back to the moral fitness, had made the comment relative to moving the children and all of that, but at this point, I just don't have enough to proceed on. There is no reasonable preference of the children at this point. Regarding the willingness and ability of each of the parties to facilitate and encourage a close and continuing parent-child relationship between the children and the other parent. What confounds things here is the personal protection order. Obviously, mother did move to the state of Florida. Mother contends that she did so based upon full knowledge of father, according to her testimony, as well as it sounded like father didn't have a problem with it, according to mother's testimony. Father, on the other hand, says he's not seen the children since May 17. And frankly speaking, I'm not going to say it's a surprise, but obviously there was a move. And so I really don't find any difference in the factor at this point, other than obviously moving to the state of Florida when there's a divorce pending in the state of Michigan doesn't bode well as we move forward in this case. Regarding domestic violence, father alleges there is no domestic violence. Mother is alleging there is domestic violence. I don't have enough information to go either way relative to that factor at this point. Mother made reference to the police being contacted at the Lugo's restaurant and someone else calling it in, but I have nothing before the court to make that determination. So, and really, there are not any other factors for the court to consider at this point. So, when you look at it and considering all the factors in this case, and frankly speaking, this is, again, an initial determination as to an established custodial environment. I really don't have anything other than the parents were together up until about April. I believe it was April 6th. Let me make sure I have that correct. March 16th. According to that, the defendant claims that father moved out of the residence. What is a little bit concerning to the court as well is Ms. Ferris makes reference to father has his family here and has friends here. Clearly, friends have been supportive by the fact that father is residing with friends currently. But to say that father has a close relationship with mother, you know, hearing father's own testimony as well, that he was allegedly abandoned at a very young age, and then to see that mother is moving back into the home and then they have to move out of the Ruth home, I'm not sure there's much of a connection there. But this is what the court is going to do on an interim basis at this point. The court is going to order that the parties have joint legal and joint physical custody, again, on an interim basis. Custodial time based upon the children's ages of 2 and 3 on an interim basis, month to month, which means that on June 16th of this month, which coincidentally is Father's Day, that was the day, according to mother, that father moved out of the residence, March 16th. So I'm using that date. On June 16th, the children will reside with father for a period of 1 month until July 16th, then back to mother, and then August 16th, back to father. And this arrangement is going to continue while this matter is pending. The reason the court is doing this is based upon the children's ages at this point. They're not at school. They're not in any form of preschool at this point, and the court didn't hear anything regarding that. And so that's how we will do it on an interim basis. Regarding the vehicle in this matter, it appears that mother left the state of Michigan without that vehicle. Father still has it. On a temporary basis, the Volvo will remain with father. Neither parties to encumber or sell any of the property or try to do anything relative to the property to stay put while this matter is pending. The court will also order that unless it's for medical purposes, neither party is to consume any recreational marijuana 8 hours prior to or during the custodial time. Applies to both parties. It's actually illegal in the state of Florida, but it's legal in the state of Michigan. Regarding the exchanges of the children at this point, again, the personal protection order is really the problem here. I'm not saying it's a problem, but it's a problem for the court to try and figure out what we can do. So if the parties cannot agree on a midpoint where there's going to be an exchange of the children that's not in violation of the personal protection order, then the party seeking the custodial time on June 16th, in this case, father, would have to go pick up the children. Then in August, if there's no midway point, mother is going to have to come to Michigan to pick up the children. And that arrangement will continue while this matter is pending. The court will also refer this matter to the friend of the court for an investigation regarding custody, parenting time, and support. Regarding support at this time, I didn't hear any argument relative to support. So Ms. Schultz, what do you recommend regarding support other than an investigation?
I don't have enough information to make a support recommendation at this point, Your Honor, but I would ask the court to specify that this will be an interim order with an effective date of May 10th, May 14th.
And it shall, May 14th, 2024. Let's see if there's anything I missed. I can't even arrange up until June 16th or after June 16th phone communication or FaceTime communication with the children because, again, the PPO is out there. So unless the PPO is removed, the court is not going to order anything relative to that. Unless there's a third party, that information can be relayed. But again, that's in violation of the personal protection order. Ms. Ferris, anything else for the record?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Miss, anything further for the record at this point?
I just have a question. I'm not sure if this is even something I can ask. So if I remove this PPO protection order, then they can have FaceTime and things like that. Even
all I'm saying is I don't have control over the personal protection order that was issued by a judge in a different county.
Sure.
And so I'm not going to try and mess that up. But if there is no personal protection order out there, or if the personal protection order is modified in such a way that the children can have speaking time with father or FaceTime with mother,
sure,
how you do that is up to you. And apparently there's going to be a contest relative to whether the personal protection order continues anyway. I just don't want to put anyone in harm's way of the personal protection order, where in this instance, father would be arrested if there's probable cause or reasonable suspicion. He'd be arrested on the spot, and then they'd have a hearing before Judge, I'm assuming Judge Thain.
okay.
And I didn't mention as well regarding the request for the tax return, the phone, regarding the Apple Watch and all that. That's preserved, and that will all be addressed as we continue along this case in the divorce proceeding, because that's property. I'm looking out for the children at this point. Ms. Schultz, yes, you have stuff as well.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Ferris had mentioned alternative dispute resolution with the friend of the court office in light of the existence of personal protection order, or address that is not being ordered.
I can't order it. I can't order it. I can't order alternative dispute resolution based upon the personal protection. One last piece of advice, and this is not legal advice, but Mother, I would strongly encourage you to retain an attorney in Michigan, or an attorney in Florida that practices in Michigan that's licensed here. That's all I can tell you. Ms. Ferris, how much time will it take you to prepare the order?
May I have 2 weeks?
Yes, we'll make it due June 21st. But in the meantime, I'm enforcing the 16th as the day.
And I will attempt to get it in by then. Do you want me though to present it like on a 7-day?
That would
Because I
probably,
have no
that would probably
ability to contact Ms. Dweebeck at this time for her signature.
Right. We'll proceed under a 7-day order, but what I will require both parties to do is give the friend of the court your updated addresses and phone numbers. Any change of employment, anything like that must be reported to the friend of the court. I will order that as well. We'll also order the SMILE program, which needs to be completed as well while this matter is pending. Schultz, do you have anything else? All right, that'll conclude the proceedings then. Thank you. We'll go off the record.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
Are these exhibits returned to me?
Yes.
Did the court have an opportunity to review them?
You can hold on. Attorney time to support. He's in the courtroom. He's in pro se. This Shepherd Dieter appears as well. She's also in pro se. Would you both please raise your right hand?
Do you solemnly swear?
So hold it.
Parties currently have, just trying to find it here, joint legal custody of the minor child with plaintiff having physical custody. Currently, there is a parenting time order in place. from Thursday after school at 3 p.m. if there is no school, till Sunday at 5:30 on alternate weekends for the defendant. That is current status, Your Honor, besides the, obviously, motions for custody, parent time, and child support. ADR has been requested in the past between the parties, but has been declined given the history of the parties.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, what is the proper cause or change in circumstance warranting a review of the custody package?
Me and my wife, our go through a divorce and I moved out, so now new place. So more payments, that's for sure.
So you move, you have another place you're living at? Okay, so what is the problem?
No, I'm my address where it's on that document right now at Port Austin, that's where I'm living at now.
Okay.
And I moved there from Cass City.
Okay. So what is the reason that you believe custody should be reviewed in this case?
Well, like I mentioned, we never really ever try to get, she never tries to get along with me, and every time that we try to come up with an agreement or anything, she just goes her way. One many times is with doctors now recently, and I still haven't talked to this doctor that she's been talking to. Went to the doctor's office. I've been sent to another pediatrician, and that pediatrician looks at me saying, my daughter's is all fine.
How old is the child?
6 going on 7, yeah.
Is this the allegation of the sleep issue?
Yes, she's saying sleep apnea, which the pediatrician that I talked to said that there's no notes on it, but there is a sleep study. That's the only note that she saw on her computer, that she told me.
Okay, so this is more legal custody you're looking at, or are you looking at changing physical custody?
Oh, well, that would go to schooling as well. She's missing a lot of school now.
Company versus Lakers.
Was that?
There's a different school the child was at before.
Well, she switched them to Ubley. We went to court for that, and she switched them back. I had no problem with Lakers, so I didn't, object to them going back to Lakers. Okay. I just objected to them going to Ubley.
So you don't wish to have the child full-time with you. You're focusing primarily on these medical issues as well as the education.
Well,
or are you asking for physical custody? I don't know.
Physical custody, I'm asking at least like week to week, just so my daughter can get to school as well.
Didn't you allege that the child's not going to school on time?
By her mother, correct.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah. I did hand in the attendance record and everything, and there's 2 tardies on me, and she showed up before school. It's just we were late for the bus. Everything else is on her. I believe that there was now going to be 19 since she's missed because of the sleep study. I'm trying to go back to the doctors. Doctor says I didn't talk to Poopman. That's what she sees, but I went to his office and they sent me with some other pediatrician. She says that my child seems fine.
Was the child actually examined by this other doctor?
Yeah, I was there with them and they examined her and she went through the notes with Poopman's notes, and all that there was just a sleep study.
So was there a sleep study completed?
Just a couple weeks ago without my permission, just because I wanted to talk to Poopman.
Okay.
Just to let him know, hey, she has no problem at my house. She doesn't have trouble sleeping. She sleeps through, she wets the bed here and there, and she'll sleep through it. She has no problem sleeping. And the doctor says the same that I talked to. I just feel like she's trying to find out a reason why my child gives her a hard time against in the morning time, where she doesn't take my kid to school. The other kids go to school, just not my kid. I have no problem. It's as easy as, hey, Tatum, time to get up.
Let's not use the child's name.
Okay, but either way, it's as simple as, hey, time to go, give her her clothes, and we're on our way within 5 minutes. I go to the bus stop.
But you take the child 1 day a week to school, correct?
2. Well, 3 actually. Thursday. Well, sorry, 2. Friday morning and Monday morning.
So you're saying on the Fridays and Mondays that you have the child, there's no problem getting the child up from school and she goes to school?
Yeah, no problem.
What's the distance from your home to the school? Or let me ask you this way. What time does the child have to get up to go to school from your residence?
6:10. We get to the bus stop around 6:30, and that's when the bus shows up. Yeah.
I did review a lot of there were a good share of at-close messages here. Did you look through those as well?
The ones that Ms. Chambers sent?
Yes.
Yes, I have, I've got those and also all that I've sent to front court.
And what's the reason you believe that the child is not getting to school on time during mom's watch?
Because of the attendance records.
No, why is she not getting to school? That's my.
Oh, why do I believe? She's letting her get away with it, I guess. I don't know. She says she gives her a hard time. I just don't know. I've even, like on her, Ms. Chambers' letter, we've gotten together and tried to talk about it. I even offered, hey, I'll come before work just to ensure that she gets to school just to help you guys out. All I ask is just let's just try to agree on things because I have some. I want my daughter more. I want to see her more. I believe 50-50 is the way it needs to be. I've been fighting for that ever since. I just think my child just needs her father.
Miss, your response.
So yes, Titan has missed quite a few days of school. It's been a struggle for me since she started school at a very young age.
Now, are there other children in your home that you take to school?
Yes, and all of my other children are really good on their attendance. It's this child that gives me such a hard time.
Do they get on the bus? Or?
Yeah, the TAP bus. And I did end up switching them back to Lakers with his permission. My other children.
I thought I heard him say he didn't give permission.
No, he didn't. No, he was fine with it.
I wasn't okay with going to Ugly.
That's right.
She called me on that and then she went back to Lakers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Lakers it is, but what time does the child have to get up to go to Lakers?
She does right now, like she has to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, which is, yes. And we're actually, my husband and I are looking for a place closer to Lakers just so that we can commute our kids back and forth because that's why I switched them to Ubley in the first place so that they would get that extra hour of sleep. But all of my kids.
Child was making.
And it didn't make a difference. And
what happened with the sleep study?
So she had that sleep study when I took her to Dr. Putnam's in Carroll. He said that by the looks of her tonsils, it was almost touching. He assumed that maybe she might have sleep apnea. So
there was a sleep study done?
Yes, and this was like
what happened
over a year ago. I haven't heard back yet.
You haven't heard back? When was the sleep study done?
About a week ago.
Oh, about a week ago?
Yeah, he's delayed it so long, like he's canceled her insurance. He's canceled appointments to where I've been fighting to get this sleep study done for over a year. And it was the doctor who ordered it because he believed that she did have it based on all of the symptoms.
So we don't know what the story is with the sleep study. Dad didn't want the sleep study.
No, because he believes that there's nothing wrong with her, but
Sure.
he only sees her the 2 days and has to deal with that.
Sure, I understand that, but think here. I did see in the messages that Dad wanted to be there for the sleep study.
Yes, and I did tell him that
Only one
parent could be there, which is what they told me, and I double checked while I was there.
So
and they
why
said
was
no.
it arranged that Dad could be there instead of you?
Well, it was scheduled on my time. And that was
That
the
doesn't
only
make a
time that they
difference,
had.
though. That shouldn't make a difference.
But why would he need to, like, why would I not want to be there?
Well,
Like,
I'm
we
not
both
saying you don't want to be
obviously
there,
wanted to
but
be
what
there.
what I'm saying is to be in the room, at least both of you can be speaking to the
Oh, I
doctor
see what you're
directly.
saying. To the
That's what I'm
doctor
talking
who ordered the sleep study, you mean?
Either one. Because if there are issues, and I'm going to be very honest with you, I'm just thinking about, and this may be a little off kilter, but I never thought that tonsils could cause issues relative to sleep. But my youngest daughter at age 20 had to be sent emergency room wise a couple of times while in college because she couldn't sleep, she couldn't breathe. Now, when I hear that and I hear what you're saying and I'm hearing what Dad's saying everything's fine.
Right.
Mom, you're saying no, she can't get out, but she has to go to school.
I know, and that's why I've been working with the school. They've been trying to do things like give her incentives to come to school. She fights me, and then it gets to the point where she misses the bus. And so what I've had to do is I've had to drive her to school multiple times, but every time I drive her to school, she still ends up being late. If she's more than just a few minutes late, they mark her a half a day absent, and this has happened so many times.
But it's your
So
responsibility.
they mark her half a day absent, and then they end up being, you know, a full day
Your
after so long.
responsibility is to get that child to school on time.
I know, and that's why I'm trying everything I can do. I've talked to the school about it. I've tried to get her into counseling. He's shut that down every time, although when she was in Ubley, she did talk to a counselor there. The school or the teacher actually came to me and told me that.
We can't go on what the teacher may have said, but I see there's a report from Harbor Beach Community Hospital that the court reviewed. This is what the court's going to do at this point. When do you think the sleep study is coming out, the information?
I'm not sure.
You think within the next 30 days?
Yeah.
All right, court was going to take the matter under advisement. I want to see the sleep study. But I'm putting both parties on notice about something. If you cannot agree about legal decisions regarding medical, education, etc., while you have joint legal custody, and if this continues, the court may order only one party have that responsibility. That's number one. So you need to be able to communicate. And I read all the messages going back and forth, and you know, I'm not a doctor, but it would be nice to get a report also from the doctor regarding why it might be required or why it may not be required. So to the extent that either of you can provide to the court, and it would not be placed in the court file, I put it in a private file,
right,
where no one could see it because medical records involving children or anyone, those are not to be released in any way, shape, or form. But if you can provide that information to the court, I can take a look at it and we can reconvene in about 30 days to see how things are going. Because I'm kind of operating in a vacuum here because Dad says everything's fine. But that's an extra hour of sleep the child gets on Dad's time versus your time where it's 5 a.m.
Right.
And for a 6-year-old, goodness, what time does the child go to sleep at?
She usually goes to sleep around 7, 8, but I do lay with her sometimes because she has nightmares.
Remind the court, last year when she was switching to Ubley, while I was under Cass City, there is a bus stop just 10 minutes away from her. She doesn't have to get him up at 5. She didn't take him to that bus stop at 6:30. It's only 10 minutes away from her. That was the same bus stop that I had to take when I was in Cass City. And, you know, I brought this up at the last hearing too. I'd like to remind the court as well, back in January 2022, 3 times she violated parenting time for me and kept my child from me to a point where this is why I have my days now. These 4 nights is because of that she violated. And we came together in mediation with Mitch. Oh, Mr. Holder, I'm so sorry. Didn't mean any disrespect.
No, I get it. But we're going to hold on to this. I want to see the medical records. I want to have that information. But I'm putting both parties on notice. If you cannot agree, then the court will make a decision who will be the final decision maker. On top of that as well, It is not good for a parent to be missing or not getting the child to school on time. That is a big no-no for the court as well, because that child needs an education. If there's something medically behind it, I'm going to find out.
Right.
So that's where we leave it. I'd like a date in 30 days, please.
July 4th holiday would be July 12th.
July 12th?
Yes, could I say something else, Ron?
Well, just a moment though. Is there a summer parenting time scheduled now that school is out? Still
No.
4 days?
Yep.
Okay. Go ahead. What do you have to say?
So regarding him being able to get her up just like that, he's always been very, very, very stern with her.
Well, we'll address that.
Okay.
I mean, maybe that's what it takes. I don't know. But right now, I want to see the medical records. I want to see what the doctors have to say.
Okay.
I would strongly encourage both parties to get reports, medical records, even a letter from the doctors.
Like I said, I've been trying to talk to Koopman. They take me to some other doctor, his own office. And when I schedule an appointment, I get set up with a different doctor.
And I've
You
never
have
saw that
joint legal
doctor.
custody, sir.
Yes,
You have joint legal custody, and if you need to take the order in there saying you need to speak to the
I
doctor.
have, and they don't.
I can't go there for you,
Okay.
but all I can say is I need all that information.
Thank
Fair
you.
enough?
Thank you.
Prior orders will remain in effect, and the date will be July 12th at 9 a.m. Thank you for your patience.
Have a good day.